Chapter 31, Spell Battle. Now that the truth has been revealed, there is no need for Jayad to hide it any longer. This is a battle of life and death, and all means must be used without reservation. The dark green acid ball flies at an extremely fast speed, and its lethality cannot be underestimated. But just when the acid ball was about to touch Master Seda, an invisible barrier blocked it, causing the acid ball to explode prematurely. The strong acidic substances spread out instantly, forming a small acid rain area. But even so, not a drop of acid could get close to Master Seda. Magic alchemical items should be a single ring. Seeing this scene, Gauda looked grim and made a judgment. Being able to block his two attacks so easily, and without the slightest spell casting action on the part of Master Seda, it was most likely not a trick mastered by Master Seda himself, but rather a supernatural item he was equipped with. As a magician and senior wizard apprentice, it was natural for Master Seda to own one or two first-ring magic alchemical items. Jayad also took this into consideration when he rehearsed in advance. However, the world of magic was too magnificent, and with his limited knowledge of magic, he was unable to determine what kind of spell it was, what effects it had, and what flaws it had. Acid Splash. Compared to Jayad's knowing nothing about anything, Master Seda was much more knowledgeable and recognized the magic cast by Jayad at a glance. His ashen face turned a little blue. He took a deep breath and sighed, "I really underestimated you, my good apprentice. I haven't even mastered this spell yet, but you have learned it. I really don't know where you got the spell formula from, and when you mastered it. But, that's it." As the words fell, Master Seda finally took action. "Come and don't go indecent." The anger in his heart towards the apprentice who dared to defy his authority had accumulated to the extreme. Master Seda stretched out his right hand, which was as thin as a dead tree. The index finger points to Jayad. A tangible vortex appeared in his hand, transforming into a dazzling red-orange light, rising to a scorching temperature. An arrow made of fire has taken shape. The flaming arrow shot out from the air like a meteor in the direction of Master Seda's index finger, and shot towards Jayad with a tail of flames. The flames burned fiercely and at an extremely fast speed. The distance between the two was so short, and Jayad did not master the spell to increase sensitivity. It is conceivable that he certainly has nowhere to hide from this attack that even a strong earth creature like the wolf rat cannot avoid. The same is true. However, Gauda was unusually calm. Faced with the blazing flaming arrows flying towards him, he remained calm and didn't even make any evasive moves that would only waste precious fighting time. The fire arrow spell mastered by Master Seda is known to God. There was no way he wouldn't come up with a solution to this. The next moment, a layer of faint light lingered around his body, spreading like ripples and enveloping him. The glimmer of light appeared just before the flaming arrow was about to touch him. Increase resistance. The barrier constructed by magic showed its effectiveness. The flaming arrow that could have caused fatal damage to God was instantly weakened after colliding with the barrier. What finally fell on Jayad were just some not very fierce flames. Although it burned through God's clothes and scalded the skin on his chest, it stopped there and did not cause God more harm. Good boy. Master Seda was also quite surprised when he saw this scene, and the contempt on his face disappeared. "You really have a lot of skills." He was surprised at the new spell that God cast, and also at God's ability. The more powerful the wizard, the shorter the casting time required to cast a spell. Logically speaking, the attack spell of the Seda mage should be cast before the spell of God. But the two spell auras of flaming arrows and increasing resistance appeared almost at the same time. This is because although Jayad is not clear about the spells that Master Seda possesses, he can be sure that after he casts Acid Splash Plus, Master Seda will definitely retaliate. Therefore, after casting Acid Splash Plus, Jayad immediately activated the spell model of Increase Resistance. Therefore, even though it takes him longer to cast a spell than Master Seda, he did not react after Master Seda cast the spell, but had already started to activate the spell model before Master Seda cast the spell. Coupled with the time it takes for the fire arrow to fly, this resulted in the situation where both of them cast spells at the same time. This has a professional term in the fighting game in Jayad's previous life. Anticipation. This was a scene that would only occur in an old wizard's battle, but it happened to a first-class apprentice whom he didn't even take seriously. How could Master Seda not be surprised? Jayad's current situation is not good. There was an abnormal blush on his face. Even though increased resistance blocked most of the power of the flaming arrow, the remaining power still caused him serious harm. More importantly, most of his magic power has been consumed. In addition to the difference in the number of spells mastered and the difference in casting time, the biggest difference between Gowda and Seda Mage lies in the number of spells that can be cast. It seems that both of them are apprentices of the mage, and their realms seem to be not much different, but Jayad is only a first-class apprentice, while Master Seda is a third-class apprentice. Jayad's current mana can only support him to cast 5 tricks before it will be used up. As a third-class apprentice, Master Seda has enough magic power to perform more than 20 tricks. A mage without mana is worse than a super soldier. This is a truth recognized by all the world. And with the hand of the mage he cast at the beginning, Jayad now only has enough mana to cast 2 tricks. Gowda took a deep breath, stayed calm, and clenched his teeth, forcing himself to temporarily ignore the burning pain in his chest. Call! Another acid ball appeared in his hand and shot towards Master Seda as he swung his arm. When facing the fire arrow spell of the Seda wizard, he did not make any evasive moves. Since he knew he couldn't avoid it, he simply placed all his hopes on the increase resistance spell. This is also to buy time so that you can still have the initiative in the next round of confrontation. Gowda was betting that Master Seda must be very confident in his fire arrow spell, thinking that it was enough to defeat him, and would not prepare the next spell right away. He won the bet. So in this round, Jayad still has the initiative. Jayad's third spell is still Acid Splash Plus. How weird. Master Seda saw all of this and couldn't help but curse in his heart. When his spell casting time was obviously faster than that of his opponent, in the 3 rounds of spell battle, except for the second round which was a draw, Jayad actually took the initiative in the other 2 rounds. Who can I talk to explain this? Chapter 32. Chain Plan. It's hard to tell whether it's jealousy or sighing. Master Seda has mixed emotions, but he is still confident of winning. Your methods are indeed beyond my expectations, but judging from your magic power, how many spells can you cast? Master Seda is extremely confident. This robe I'm wearing has a built-in magic shield. Even if I stand still and let you attack me, even if you use up all your magic power, you still can't hurt a hair on my head. Shield spell. Jayad silently memorized this spell in his heart. Master Seda was indeed not deceiving Gowda. The acid ball exploded in front of Master Seda just like before, and the splashing acid was isolated by the magic barrier. Master Seda was safe and sound. Admit defeat and tell me where you learned this magic. Maybe I can give you a quick death. Master Seda shook his head. It has come to this point. Even if there is no hope ahead, why should we turn back? Gowda turned a deaf ear to him, sweat oozing from his forehead. This was caused by both the pain from the burns on the chest and the excessive consumption of mana and the strain. Acid Splash Plus is more powerful than Acid Splash, but its mana consumption is also greater than Acid Splash. If he hadn't persisted in practicing for the past month and his magic power had not increased slightly, he wouldn't even be able to perform 5 magic tricks. Another acid ball condensed in Jayad's palm. The last spell is still Acid Splash Plus. Although Gowda didn't say anything, his actions made his meaning clear. Master Seda's expression became even uglier. Seeing Gowda provoking him again and again, he finally couldn't suppress the anger in his heart. I don't know what to do. The third acid ball was still blocked by Master Seda's shield. However, after continuously resisting multiple magic spells, even though the shield spell is a first-level spell, its strength has been almost consumed. Master Seda was not prepared to put himself in possible danger, so he acted decisively to take down Jayad in one fell swoop before the power of the shield was completely consumed. He took a step forward and raised his right hand at the same time. A light so bright that it was enough to blind most people's eyes suddenly burst out. This is exactly the method that Master Seda used to deal with wolf rats. Gowda didn't have time to close his eyes. This is not something that can be responded to by reaction. The light was so strong that it instantly caught Jayad's eyes. He only felt a heat in his eyes, and then his eyeballs began to ache and tears came out unconsciously. His vision disappeared at that moment. Gowda finally realized what it felt like to be blinded by the light. He did not bother to wipe away his tears, nor did he try to open his eyes to look outside, nor did he make any blind evasive movements. Instead, he decisively reached into his arms. He took out a copper object that looked like a fang. Fang of the Hidden Mist. Jayad gently waved the fang of Hidden Mist. A thick fog suddenly emerged from it and quickly spread outward. At the same time, a powerful energy circulated around the Hidden Mist fang, causing it to vibrate as if it had life. Energy poured into the fang of Hidden Mist like a lava flow. It also emitted a slight resonance and a faint glow appeared on its surface, indicating that it had been endowed with supernatural powers and would be able to cause even more deadly damage to the enemy. Demonized. This process is like mercury flowing on the ground, extremely smooth. On the other side, the fog spread in just a moment, silently filling the room and plunging the entire room into a haze. The originally clear scene became blurred in the blink of an eye. Only objects that are close at hand can have their outlines discerned. Any vision beyond a 5-foot range was obscured by the thick fog. And Jayad kept a distance of more than 5 feet between himself and Master Seda from beginning to end, and even spent his limited mana to cast Hand of the Master to get the medicine. You make me invisible to you, and I make you invisible to me. Now the two of them are tied again and back to the same starting point. But the flash only lasts for a moment, while the concealing mist lasts for a minute. The advantage is mine. The next period of time will be Jayad's home court. Master Seda opened his eyes wide and looked in the direction where God had gone before, but all he saw was a pitch-black darkness. Not only could he not see the person, he couldn't even make out his outline. He was shocked and angry. A first-level spell, concealing mist. Where did this kid get this first-level extraordinary item? Even I only have 2 first-level magic alchemical creations. Now, he had completely thrown away his previous contempt. This kid has a big secret. God showed so many things, how could Master Seda not guess this? Call, a sharp sound accompanied by a cold wind blew towards him from the front. Although the vision is blocked, the sound is not affected. Master Seda reacted immediately and quickly dodged to the side. Boom! Puff! 2 voices sounded in succession. A glass bottle and a bag of unknown something exploded beside Master Seda. As his vision was also obstructed, God naturally could not accurately aim at Master Seda, so it was understandable that he was avoided. Acid again. The pungent smell of sulfur made Master Seda immediately understand what God had thrown. There's flour. But another smell left Master Seda puzzled. In addition to the acid in the potion bottle, what God threw over was also a small bag of flour. Master Seda simply couldn't understand what Jayad's intention was. The scattering ashes tactic obviously only works the first time when it catches the person off guard. Besides, how could this flour, which couldn't be accurately aimed at his face, have any effect on him? Jayad didn't give Master Seda much time to think. Immediately, another glass bottle and several small bags of flour were thrown over from the depths of the fog. Although it still didn't hit Master Seda, some of the acid from the exploded acid bottle still splashed towards Master Seda. Fortunately, the shield was still effective and protected Master Seda. Master Seda had no time to think about the purpose of the flour thrown along with the acid, and just thought that Jayad was confusing him. Where on earth did this kid get so many bottles of acid? He cursed fiercely in his heart, and at the same time quickly moved his feet and changed his position. But the next moment, he let out a hoarse scream of extreme pain. He looked down at his right foot. There was a pool of acid. And Master Seda stepped on it. The acid instantly corroded the solace of his shoes, and then corroded the skin and flesh of the solace of his feet, making a hissing corrosion sound. The skin on the solace of his feet began to dissolve the moment it came into contact with the acid, leaving charred and bubbling wounds and causing him severe pain. When has Master Seda ever suffered such harm? Where did the acid come from? It was left behind by the acid bottle that was thrown earlier. Not really. In addition to the acid spilled on the ground by the broken acid bottle, there is also the acid left by God's previous acid splash plus additional effect. The acid can be retained for up to 1 day according to your needs. Although 3 consecutive acid splash plus were blocked by Master Seda's shield spell, the acid that did not disappear formed a minefield around Master Seda together with the acid in the acid bottle, restricting his movement. Under normal circumstances, the acid spilled on the ground would not pose any threat to Master Seda. But now the concealing mist restricted his vision and gave him a feeling of being unable to move. If I move, I might step on the acid. If I don't move, wouldn't I just be a sitting duck? The effectiveness of the shield has almost dissipated. Without the shield, he can no longer face the acid unscathed as before. At this point, Master Seda, who was in a dilemma, thought of the inexplicable action of Godar using the mage's hand to take the potion at the beginning, and immediately understood that Godar had already laid the groundwork for the concealing mist at that time. I don't know where they got so many bottles of acid from. It turns out they were used to set up this minefield. Even though he knew that acid splash was useless against his shield, he still persevered in performing it. I thought he had no other options and could only continue. Now it seems that it is completely for the purpose of depleting the effectiveness of his own shield so that he can no longer ignore the acid bottles he keeps throwing at him. After such a series of traps, even this old hand of his was finally trapped and put into a dilemma. Chapter 33 Destiny is Mine. This guy. Master Seda thought again that Gauda had been his apprentice for so many years, but he only revealed everything today and had never shown any flaws before. Gauda's deep planning and deep forbearance are really inconsistent with his age, which makes Master Seda more afraid the more he thinks about it. You really did scheme a lot and made me suffer. After sorting out all this, Master Seda suddenly regained his composure. He said to the depths of the black fog where no one could be seen clearly, but if there are no other tricks, let's end this farce today. You still underestimate my knowledge and overestimate your extraordinary items. A one-level alchemical artifact cannot bridge the huge gap between you and me. Master Seda endured the severe pain that continued to come from the sole of his foot and sneered, even though the concealing mist is a first-level spell, it has no lethality after all, and it has great limitations. And as it happens, I know its limitations. It's time to end. Master Seda shouted. Isn't the reason why we are in such a dilemma because of the existence of this fog? Then let this fog disappear and everything will be solved. A Jayad whose magic power has been exhausted and who has lost the protection of the concealing mist, won't he be at the mercy of others? And he knew two ways to restrain the hidden mist technique. Strong wind and fire. There were no strong wind spells among the magic tricks, but there were quite a few fire spells. And he just happened to master one of them. A red light flashed in his hand, and a scorching temperature followed. An arrow made of fire took shape again. As he swung his arm, it shot out quickly. The moment it left his hand, it turned into a rocket burning with blazing flames. Burn your mist away. Boom. 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 Before he could finish his words, a shocking explosion suddenly sounded, completely unexpected to Master Seda. Explosion. Explosion. In the blink of an eye, flames inexplicably exploded in the space centered on Master Seda. When the explosion occurred, a high-pressure and high-temperature shock wave was formed. A huge shock wave spread outward, violently slamming into surrounding objects and structures, and the Seda mage was the object closest to the center of the explosion. The remaining effect of the shield was destroyed in an instant. The huge impact force swept through Master Seda's body, tearing the robe on his body, which was a supernatural item, into pieces and then tearing his old and weak body. The burning flames were mixed with thick smoke, and its surging momentum did not stop. It continued to spread and swallowed up everything in the room, including the mist released by the concealing mist technique. In just a moment, the mist of the concealing mist technique was completely swallowed up by the flames. As the fog disappeared, the obstructed vision finally became clear again. The room was already in a mess. There was a layer of smoke in the air, and the light was distorted in the turbid air, forming hazy beams of light, cutting the chaotic scene in the room into an irregular piece of light and shadow. The huge pressure generated by the explosion left the wall covered with mottled marks, and a very thick crack ran through the entire wall. The furniture in the room was overturned and damaged by the shock wave of the explosion. The chairs were broken, the tables were shattered, the books on the bookshelf were blown into confetti, and the remaining parts were also burning. Various debris were scattered on the ground. Two figures were lying in the midst of the devastation, their clothes already burnt and torn. The two men just lay there, motionless, and it was unknown whether they were dead or alive. It was eerily quiet. Apart from the occasional crackle of embers, there was almost no other sound. Ha ha ha. After a moment, heavy breathing sounds were heard in the room. Among the two figures lying on the ground, one of them began to move slowly. Great moral. He regained some consciousness, only to feel burning pain all over his body and his limbs felt extremely heavy. Gauda used all his strength to struggle to get up, and every movement was accompanied by severe pain and gasping. Although the center of the explosion was Master Seda, he tried his best to keep his distance and rushed out of the room the moment the explosion occurred. But the room was so small, and the aftermath of the explosion spread so quickly, there was no way he could avoid being affected. Hurt the enemy by 1,000 and lose 600 of your own. At this moment, Gauda seemed to have to make great efforts every time he inhaled, barely pulling the air into his tired lungs. When he exhaled, it was slow and heavy, like an old bellows releasing the last wisp of air, with a bit of delay and reluctance. He struggled to support himself with his arms to sit up, and then stood up shakily. After standing up shakily, Gauda used his strong willpower to temporarily put aside the injuries and pain in his body. He took weak steps and moved step by step to the side of another figure lying in the room, then squatted down. Why? Why? Master Seda was still breathing and regained some consciousness. He sensed Gaudel approaching and tried to raise his finger, but after trying several times, he still failed. He could only move his lips and make a faint sound. Compared to God, the injuries suffered by Master Seda were much more serious. His body was covered with pieces of clothing mixed with flour and blood, and his skin was extensively burned, showing varying shades of black and redness. Some of the skin had even peeled off due to the high temperature, revealing the pink wound underneath. Master Seda's eyes revealed a mixture of pain and confusion. "This is my backup plan," Goder grinned, laughing heartily, the most wanton laugh he had ever had since coming to this world. "You also underestimate my knowledge." That night, he woke up Amy and asked her to help buy something in the city, which was the flour that he threw out along with the bottle of acid. Dust explosion. The flour dust content in each cubic meter of air shall not exceed 9.7 grams. As long as the flour dust concentration in the local air reaches this threshold and encounters a fire source of sufficient intensity, an explosion may occur. This is well-known safety common sense in his world. But in this world, few people know it. After learning about the effect of the hidden mist spell, Gauda knew that relying solely on the combined effect of this spell and the demonized fang of the hidden mist would not be enough to defeat the Seda mage. He is younger than Master Seda and has better physical fitness than Master Seda. But the problem is that he has never learned to fight, either in his previous life or in this life. Facing an old wizard who masters close combat spells, that slight advantage in physical fitness is definitely not enough to offset the advantages that spells can bring. It wasn't until he noticed that the concealing mist would be blown away by strong winds and burned out by flames that his plan fully took shape. Gauda was betting that Master Seda was very likely to know how to break the hidden mist spell, and he was also certain that Master Seda possessed a fire spell. Knowing the method to break the spell and mastering the fire spell, there is no reason for Master Seda not to cast the fire spell to break his hidden mist spell. What Jayad had to do was to sprinkle flour in the enclosed room in advance before Master Seda cast the fire spell to increase the dust concentration in the air. This is the final part of Jayad's plan: do your best, listen to destiny. The so-called destiny is whether Master Seda knows how to break the hidden fog technique. If destiny is not with him, Gauda only has one last trick left. Relying on the demonized fang of hidden mist, he fought a bayonet battle with Master Seda. Even in this worst-case scenario, flour is not useless. The flour sprinkled on Master Seda will allow Jayad, whose vision is obstructed by the fog, to better locate Master Seda's position. However, there is no need to think about these anymore. Because destiny is in his hands. While laughing wildly, God had already raised the hidden mist fang in his hand high up. Puff! Blood splattered and splashed onto Jayad, mixing with the blood flowing from his wounds. Just like the last time he stabbed Yulan, God raised the fang of hidden mist and stabbed it into the chest of the Seda wizard, then pulled it out, appearing to be extremely skilled. One moment is not enough. He pulled out the hidden mist fang and stabbed it again. Then he pulled it out and poked it again. So back and forth. Why? Master Seda's breath became weaker and weaker. He looked at Jayad with wide eyes, his lips moving as he uttered an incomplete sentence intermittently. Before he could finish his words, his head tilted and there was no sign of life left. Although it was incomplete, Jayad knew what Master Seda wanted to ask. He used up the last bit of his strength to focus on Fengling Yu Ying. After seeing human, 2/7, God grinned and answered Master Seda's questions with confidence. He answered the body on the ground that no longer had much of a human form. Why? My life was picked up, but your life is your own. How can you beat me in playing with your life? In the end, he was the one who walked out of this room alive. The breath that was tense in his heart suddenly relaxed, and Gauda could no longer control his consciousness. With a bang, his body fell to the ground again, and he lost consciousness. Chapter 34, The Legacy of the Seda Mage. Gauda, Gauda, Gauda. In his drowsiness, Gauda heard a series of concerned and hurried calls. But he didn't have the energy to open his eyes and respond. It was unknown how much time had passed before a warmth surged from deep within his body and quickly spread throughout Jayad, waking him up from his coma. Gauda suddenly opened his eyes and looked around vigilantly. A dark and cramped room. A faint ray of light shone through the small air vent on the south wall of the room. A very familiar scene. A month ago, when I first came to this world, this was the first scene I saw when I opened my eyes. Gauda instantly realized where he was. It was his own cramped little bedroom. God, you finally woke up. Amy, who was sitting at the head of the bed, was the first to notice that God woke up and came over in surprise. Gauda just woke up and felt weak all over. When he looked carefully, he found that his body was tied with various cloth strips. There was a burst of cool air coming from the cloth strips, which should be wrapped with some medicinal herbs. Gauda calmed down and remembered everything that happened before he fell into a coma. Master Seda is dead. He asked again to confirm. Yes, he's dead. Amy was almost crying with joy, and said excitedly, God, you are so amazing, how did you do it? Goddard did not answer Amy's question, but closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The great enemy in his mind, the sword of Damocles hanging over his head, finally disappeared. Gauda's mind, which had been tense for a month, finally relaxed completely. How long have I been unconscious this time? He opened his eyes and looked at Amy and asked. One day, Amy raised a finger and said, after the explosion in Master Seda's room yesterday, I bravely went to investigate the situation. I saw you lying together with Master Seda, covered in wounds. You were holding a bloody weapon in your hand, and Master Seda was already dead. As Amy spoke, she pointed at the wooden table beside her. On it was placed the murder weapon, the Fang of Hidden Mist, which had been cleaned of blood stains. I will immediately carry you back to your room and use the herbs from the herb garden to bandage you simply. At this point, Amy thankfully said, Master Seda is dead now. No one will bother me if I use his herbs. Thank you. Goder said to Amy seriously. If Amy hadn't found him in time and bandaged and treated him, he wouldn't have woken up so quickly. I should be the one thanking you. You killed Master Seda. You are the savior of all of us. Amy couldn't help but say. I was also trying to save myself, saving you was just a side job. Goder did not acknowledge the credit, not because he was noble or hypocritical, but more because he didn't really need Amy's thanks. He smiled at Amy, Master Seda is dead, you are free. Hearing this, Amy was not as ecstatic as Goddard had expected. Instead, she looked embarrassed, as if she wanted to say something but was too embarrassed to do so. Just say whatever you want to say. Goder saw that Amy was hesitant to speak. Amy bit her lip and shouted to the door, God is awake. Following Amy's words, the door of the room was pushed open instantly. The remaining 6 apprentices in the medicine garden had been waiting outside the door, and now they all squeezed in, filling the already narrow room. Everyone, including Amy, knelt down on one knee in front of God's bed. What do you mean? Gauda and these people stared at each other in bewilderment, not understanding what was going on. Everyone looked at each other, and finally Amy, Gauda's roommate for many years, came out to be the representative spokesperson. After all, in theory he and Jayad have the closest relationship. Master Seda is dead, but the medicine garden is still there, and we are used to working in the medicine garden. Amy said seriously and sincerely, we also understand that although we have been apprentices with Master Seda for a long time, we actually haven't learned much. With our limited abilities, it will be difficult for us to have enough food if we leave the medicine garden. We want to keep the medicine garden going. Without Master Seda, it is indeed not easy to continue operating the medicine garden, but it is not impossible. You killed Master Seda, and you can independently prepare the primary spider poison potion. In this case, why don't you replace Master Seda and inherit his medicine garden? We will do our best to work for you. Except for the change of owner, everything else in our medicine garden remains unchanged. Amy said all her thoughts in one breath, and then stopped talking, nervously waiting for Goder's reply. The new owner of the medicine garden must firstly be able to convince the public and secondly have a certain level of attainment in alchemy, so that the medicine garden can continue to operate. Among the less than 10 apprentices in the entire medicine garden, only Gauda, who successfully killed his master, met these 2 conditions. Caught off guard by Amy's suggestion, Gauda couldn't help but fall into deep thought. To be honest, before this, he had never thought about what would happen after killing Master Seda. For Gauda at that time, this was too ambitious and unrealistic. But now that it's done, he really needs to think carefully about his next arrangements. And it must be said that although Amy and the apprentice's proposal was beyond his expectations, it did make him excited. If you want to grow into a powerful wizard, resources undoubtedly come first. Learning magic costs money, practicing costs money, and food, clothing, housing, and transportation cost even more money. In short, everything depends on money. For him now, the medicine garden is the biggest way to make money that he can control. Under Master Seda's management over the years, the entire business model of the medicine garden has been perfected. As long as the medicine garden can continue to operate in the previous model, it can generate continuous income. Jayad needs this medicine garden to earn the resources he needs for his mage practice. The other apprentices in the medicine garden also need Jayad to ensure that the medicine garden can continue to operate according to the previous model. Therefore, if Gauda agrees to Amy's proposal, it will be a win-win situation for both parties. With this in mind, there is no reason to reject this proposal. Okay. Gauda nodded slightly and made a decisive decision. Greetings, owner of the garden. The apprentices kneeling on the ground were immediately delighted when they heard the affirmative answer. After looking at each other, the next moment, everyone said in unison. Amy took advantage of the situation and pulled out a box from her arms, holding it in both hands and handing it to God. It was a box meticulously carved from an unknown wood. The box is engraved with intricate runes and patterns symbolizing magical elements. These patterns are obviously not just decorations, but represent magical powers. This is Master Sada's room has become a ruin because of the explosion. We searched the ruins for a long time. Most of the things in the room were destroyed, only this box was still intact. Whether it's the rune patterns carved on the box or the fact that it remained intact in such a horrific explosion, it shows that this box must be an extraordinary item. And the thing that Master Sada placed in this box with such importance must be what he values most. It's just that no matter how hard I try, I can't open this box. You are the owner of the garden now, so apart from the medicine garden, the other relics of Master Sada should also belong to your property. Amy looked at God respectfully. Chapter 35. It's not easy to be the master. Goddard gave Amy a meaningful look, then reached out and took the box. As for whether Amy couldn't open the box or it was really as he said, he didn't care. The final result is the same. God also understood that if he had not agreed to be the owner of this medicine garden, even if the box could never be opened again, Amy would most likely take the box away instead of giving it to him. As God thought about it, he tried to open the box even though Amy had already said it couldn't be opened. It didn't stop him from trying again. It turned out that Amy didn't lie to him. The box looked normal, but when trying to open it, it felt like it was welded shut and no matter how hard I tried, it wouldn't budge. After trying for a while, Jayad gave up the idea of opening the box using ordinary methods. Apparently, there was an invisible lock on the box. Without opening this lock, the box cannot be opened. Isn't this just the safe in the wizard's world? Gauda muttered to himself, feeling a little depressed but also feeling that it made sense. He has already had a glimpse of the magic of magic. In such a world, even the most fantastic things may actually exist. The top priority is to recuperate and get the medicine garden running again. After these two things are done, we'll find a way to open the box. Gauda knew that the things in the box must be extremely precious, and there was a high probability that they even contained the spell formulas and prescriptions that he needed most. However, he was well aware that there was no point in being impatient about some things, so he quickly adjusted his attitude and put away the box. Gauda glanced at the apprentices who were still crowded in the room. The narrow room seemed to have no air circulation. He yawned and said to everyone, "I'm a little tired and need to rest. Everyone go back first. We'll discuss the matter of the medicine garden in detail after I wake up." Gauda was indeed tired. The high mental pressure that had lasted for a whole month had already made him exhausted. Coupled with the physical injuries, he was even more tired. The apprentices were also very tactful and stood up and left, including Amy, who was Jayad's roommate, who also left. "If you need anything, just give me a shout and I'll be there right away," Amy said. "Okay." Goddard said to Amy. With a low creak, the door was closed. "This place is too small and it's not comfortable to sleep in. I have to change to another room." God thought. For example, Master Sada's bedroom is a good choice. "It's great to be alive," he said to himself finally. Gauda was lying on the bed. The sun was shining brightly at this time. The warm sunlight came in through the open window and fell on Jayad's body, making Jayad, who was still recuperating from his injuries, squint his eyes comfortably. His narrow bedroom had only a small air vent, so there was no such view. This is Master Sada's bedroom. A spacious room with good light. It's his now. As the winner, Jayad took it for himself without any hesitation. "This is the spoils of war." There was a bustling sound coming from outside the door, mixed with the creaking of objects moving against the ground. Gauda knew that these were the apprentices cleaning up the garbage. Because of the violent explosion, Master Seta's workshop, which was also his study, was completely reduced to ruins. Fortunately, the explosion did not affect other areas of the medicine garden, so no greater losses were caused. It was not an easy task to clean up the mess left after the explosion. The apprentices spent 2 days and still hadn't completely cleaned up the mess. The body of Master Seta was moved away and buried in the back mountain while Jayad was still unconscious. He was buried together with the apprentice who died in a previous drug test. It can be regarded as a harmonious and happy death of the master and the disciple. As for all the items in Master Seta's room, except for the spell box that couldn't be opened, they were all blown into pieces and became useless garbage. Even the magic robe on Master Seta's body was directly blown into pieces due to the huge power of the explosion. Obviously, this level of damage is beyond the capabilities of restoration technology and is impossible to repair. In the end, it can only be disposed of like garbage. This made Jayad very distressed. After all, one ring of extraordinary items was worth 60 or 70 gold coins. But given the huge gap in strength between him and Master Seta, how could he be qualified to think about the spoils? As long as people live, there will always be bread. Gauda could only comfort himself in this way. Although this still couldn't stop the pain in his heart, it seemed to make him feel a little better. Gauda gently moved his body into a more comfortable position, thinking about what to do next. The top priority is definitely to get the medicine garden back up and running and back on track to ensure its revenue. In addition, you can continue to maintain contact with Pierre's grocery store. Although the business of repairing extraordinary items is not as stable as the potion business, it can also serve as an additional source of income. The second thing is to find a way to open the spell box left by Master Seta. Finally, it is better to focus on your own practice, which is even more important than learning new spells or strengthening spells with the help of Wind Spirit and Moon Shadow. After all, even if you master many powerful spells, if you don't have enough mana, they are just castles in the air and have no practical significance. The 5th day of the month of spring buds. All traces of Master Seta in the medicine garden have been completely cleared away. Gauda's injuries have also recovered a lot. They were just external injuries, without any broken bones, and the efficacy of medicinal herbs in this world is much more significant than in his previous life due to the existence of magic. During the past few days of recuperation, Gauda also reviewed the current situation of the medicine garden. Before he came to this world, there were 12 people in the medicine garden, which was the period with the largest number of people in the medicine garden. After his arrival, he killed Islan and Master Seta one after another. In addition, 2 apprentices were killed in the night attack by the underground creatures last month. In other words, there are currently 8 people in the medicine garden, including Gauda. Roommate Amy, apprentice, and Chef Ramos, the only 2 people in the medicine garden who can mix potions besides God, Aichi, and Raymond. The other 7 people besides him were also first-class apprentices. But there are still gaps among first-class apprentices. They all barely mastered a trick, either mage's hand or repair, and calling them mage apprentices was a bit of an exaggeration. What's even more embarrassing is that although Aichi and Raymond can also mix potions, their success rate is not high. On average, it takes 2 portions of ingredients to mix 1 potion. You know, the profit of level 0 potion itself is not high, and it is essentially a low-end product, which wins in production and success rate. This level of potion can basically guarantee a 100% success rate once the potion master has mastered it. In fact, a low-level potion master who cannot guarantee this success rate cannot survive. Moreover, the potion that H and Raymond mastered was not the primary spider poison potion, but the nap sleeping potion. The effect of this potion is to quickly induce the drinker to enter a short but deep sleep, and wake up refreshed. But it cannot be used for a long time, otherwise it will lose its efficacy and symptoms of sleep disorders will appear. The recipients are generally people who transport goods, and they use it when they are on the road as an emergency measure. It is practical, but it is not widely applicable and cannot be used for a long time, so the market is limited. The demand for nap sleeping potions at Phil's potion shop is not high. Orders are only placed when they are occasionally needed, rather than purchasing them in unlimited quantities over a long period of time like the primary spider venom potion and the primary endurance potion. In other words, H and Raymond are 2 unqualified potion masters and cannot be considered productive at all. From this perspective, Gauda is the only one who can generate stable income in the medicine garden. It is no wonder that the apprentices in the medicine garden insisted on nominating Gauda to be the owner of the medicine garden. He is indeed the only one who has this ability. It's the first round of recommendations for new books. My good brothers, please read them during the new book period. This is very important to me. The last book about sword cultivation was eliminated in the first round. Now it's the second book, so I have to let my buddy enter the second round. Chapter 36, Medicine Garden Story. A small medicine garden for 8 people, let's calculate the expenses first. In this world, the minimum living expenses for a normal family of 5 is 57 gold per year. The situation in the medicine garden will be better, because the land and property are yours, so you can save on the big expense of rent. But the consumption of food, fuel, and clothing is certainly unavoidable. Calculated in this way, the minimum fixed living expenses for the medicine garden in 1 year is 72 gold, or 1,440 silver, which means an average of 4 silver coins per day. In other words, one must earn at least 4 silver coins every day to ensure that the medicine garden does not go bankrupt. This is just the minimum expenditure. Now that God has become the owner of the garden, he naturally can no longer eat rye bread and pea soup every day like the slaves before. He must improve his food. This is another significant additional expense. The current fixed output of the medicine garden is only a set of primary spider venom potions prepared by Jayad every day. The purchase price given by Phil's potion shop for a set of primary spider poison potion is 2 gold. The raw materials are around 30 silver, and the profit is about 10 silver. However, since some of the medicinal materials can be produced by the medicine garden itself and there is no need to purchase them from pharmacies, the cost can be reduced to between 20-25 silver coins, and the profit is increased to 15-20 silver coins. And each set of primary spider venom potion produced by Godar can produce an additional ½ ounce of potion. In other words, for every 12 sets of primary spider venom potions he made, he could produce 1 more set. Buy 12 and get 1 free, there are 360 sets per year, and 30 sets are free. When Gauda figured this out, he couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Master Seda worked hard in his early years and built a fairly large herb garden and trained some apprentices who knew how to grow herbs, otherwise he would really want to run away. It is 450 silver per month. The annual amount is 5,400 silver. Taking the middle value, the surplus in 1 year is 4,500 silver, which is equivalent to 225 gold coins in Shan. 220,000 a year. The purchasing power of a Shan gold coin is roughly equivalent to 1,000 yuan in Jayad's previous life. He calculated in his mind and roughly calculated his annual income. We must also give some to the others. Each person will receive 10 gold coins per year, which still leaves an income of 150 Shan gold coins. With dividends, everyone is truly on the same boat, can work harder, and regard themselves more as part of the medicine garden. Gauda still understands this truth. As for the gift of 30 sets of primary spider poison potions, they were pure profit, the benefit of his ability, and no dividends were required. Assuming 2 gold per set, another 60 gold will be earned. 150 plus 60, that's 210 Shan gold coins. If we can open the magic wooden box left by Master Seda, and if there is a potion formula inside, perhaps our income can increase further. In addition, the 2 apprentices who can prepare the nap sleeping potion may be able to improve their success rate through practice. Some of the herbs produced in the herb garden are the raw materials for the primary endurance potion. I don't have the knowledge of this potion, so these herbs can also be sold. This is also an additional income. It won't be very high, but it is stable. Well, isn't this just a business simulation game? Gauda couldn't help but say happily after coming back to his senses after thinking for a while. There is always a feeling of a sudden change in style. I always feel like something is missing. Gauda pondered for a moment, thought of something, and immediately stood up, took out a pen and paper, and began to write furiously. A moment later. Name, Seda Medicinal Garden. Number of people, 8 fixed assets, 1 medicinal garden and 4 medicinal fields, producing snake tooth grass, wormwood, alpine ironwood root, and sun fruit. Holding cash, 8 copper. Fixed expenses, 4-5 silver/day, living expenses, income, 15-20 silver/day, fixed output of primary spider poison potion, unpredictable irregular income is not included for the time being, variable expenses, herb seedlings, fertilizers and materials needed to prepare nutritious soil. Looking at the homemade panel he had listed on paper, Gauda nodded with satisfaction. Right. With this consideration, this medicine garden still has great potential. Gauda suddenly became full of energy. You have to be motivated. Now the entire medicine garden depends on his output, as the hope of the entire garden, Gauda immediately stood up, went to his workshop, and prepared a set of primary spider poison potion on the spot. Spring Bud Month, 6th day, early morning. Gauda, whose injuries had not yet fully recovered, left the medicine garden and headed for the commercial district in the city with a set of primary spider venom potion that he had just prepared yesterday. It's not that he is so enthusiastic, it's just that his family is struggling to make ends meet. It is not known whether Master Seda put all his savings in the magic wooden box, or whether he had no savings at all. In short, the apprentices did not find even a copper coin when they were cleaning up the ruins. The medicine garden would require at least 4 silver coins per day. Fortunately, the food purchased in the medicine garden was enough for several days at a time, and Jayad also had 10 silver and 8 copper deposits, so he was able to hold out for several days. But today, I really can't hold on any longer. After these few days of spending, Jayad's savings were almost gone, with only 8 copper coins left. Without any more income, everyone would go hungry. This was not the first time that Gauda went to the commercial district of Hogon City, but it was indeed the first time he left the medicine garden in the early morning. When Master Seda was still around, he had to work in the morning, and only in the afternoon could he have some time for himself after preparing potions. There was a lingering foul smell in the cool early morning air. This is because God has arrived at the slums of Hogon City. Given the suburban location of the medicine garden, it is almost impossible to avoid the slums as long as you go to the city center. When I have money, I must hire a carriage for commuting. The master of the medicine garden, whose means of transportation is still his legs, set a small goal, then held his breath and quickened his pace. When we passed the slums and residential areas and arrived at the commercial district, the sun was already high in the sky. Although it is not the busiest time yet, there are already people on the streets. God, who was short of money, ignored the tempting aroma coming from the food stores on both sides of the street and went straight to Pierre's grocery store. He now only has a set of primary spider venom potion. Phil's potion shop won't accept this amount. Therefore, even though the purchase price of Pierre's grocery store is 7 silver coins less than that of Phil's potion shop, Goddard can only choose the former. When Goddard arrived at Pierre's grocery store, he happened to see Pierre just opening the door of the grocery store. Because he had always come in the afternoon before, he never expected Pierre's business hours would be so late. In his impression, small shops like this should be open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and earn hard-earned money. Compared to God's surprise, Pierre seemed extremely surprised to see God's arrival. "Boy, you haven't been here for a long time. I thought something happened to you." Pierre greeted him first. Since the 14th day of the month of self-awakening, Jayad has been under house arrest by Master Seda. Now it is the 6th day of the month of spring buds. By this calculation, it has been more than 20 days. No wonder Pierre's first reaction when he saw God was surprise. Chapter 37. Secret Lock. "Something happened, and I haven't been out for a long time," Gauda smiled helplessly and explained, then asked, "Do you still want the primary spider poison potion?" "Of course." Pierre nodded with a smile and gave God a message. For some unknown reason, the number of wild beasts outside the city has increased significantly recently, and they have become much more aggressive. Even the frequency of underground creatures appearing has increased a lot, so more people are going out hunting. The demand for primary spider venom potion has increased greatly in recent times, and it is almost in short supply. Primary spider poison potion was originally applied by hunters on arrows and weapons to fight against wild beasts. Its severe paralyzing effect made it a powerful weapon against low-level earth creatures and wild beasts. As hunting activities increased, the sales of primary spider venom potion naturally increased. This is good news for Jayad. His heart moved slightly, and he handed a set of primary spider poison potion to Pierre. Pierre took the potion, a gleam flashed in his eyes, and then he nodded with satisfaction, "Your goods are still so good." He put away the primary spider venom potion, took out some coins from the drawer under the counter and handed them to God. "Did you give too much?" Goddard did some calculations in his head and found that Pierre actually gave 1 Shang gold coin plus 15 trefoil silver coins, which is 35 silver coins. This is 33 silvers more than the original purchase price of 2 silvers. It's not a huge amount, but Gauda has no intention of taking advantage of this small amount. "Didn't I tell you that the demand for primary spider venom potion has been in short supply recently? So its price has been raised by 10%. Naturally, I have to increase the purchase price as well. How can I take advantage of you?" Pierre explained. Knowing that it was not an excessive amount, Gauda accepted it without hesitation. By the way, does your previous promise to repair magic items still stand? After the transaction was completed, Pierre stopped God and asked again. Gauda's eyes lit up. Is there any business? Repairing magic items not only allows you to earn some extra money, but also allows you to indirectly learn some spells, which is a win-win situation. Yes, after I released the news, someone actually came to my house a few days ago to inquire about the situation. Pierre nodded, but he didn't rush to sit down. It's just that you haven't been here for a while, and I don't know what your situation is, so I didn't respond directly at the time. But he still left me an address. The old man approached Gauda and said, the price he offered was unusually high. How high? Gauda asked subconsciously. Pierre stretched out his right hand and opened it. 5 Shang gold coins. Gauda was slightly surprised. Pierre nodded heavily. Are you shocked? I was shocked when I heard it, too. A first-level magic item. Gauda hesitated. Yes, Pierre spread his hands, otherwise how could I give such a high repair fee? A 0-ring extraordinary item is only worth 12-15 gold coins. If the repair cost requires 5 gold coins, it is better to buy a new one. The only thing that could afford such a high repair fee is a first-level extraordinary item. Can it be repaired? Asked Pierre. The difficulty of repairing a level 0 supernatural item is not the same as that of repairing a level supernatural item. Pierre was not sure whether Gauda's ability was sufficient, which was one of the reasons why he did not accept the offer. Yes, Gauda nodded, but it will take time, and. He paused and said in a deep voice, add money. The repair fee is generally around 65% of the value of the item itself, which is a reasonable price, and the average price of a 1-ring extraordinary item is gold. In addition, it is almost impossible to find a second person in Hogan City who is capable of repairing a first-ring extraordinary item. Scarcity makes things valuable. In this case, it is reasonable to increase the price appropriately. Pierre also understood the market, so he naturally didn't think that Gauda was asking for too much. He even nodded in agreement and said, 5 gold is a high repair fee, but if it is to repair a supernatural item, the price is still on the low side. It's good that it can be repaired. I can help you negotiate the price. How about you come to the store the day after tomorrow? The old man said with a smile. Thank you for your help, Goddard said. I will come to the store the day after tomorrow. Boss, do you know if there is any spell among the 0th and first level spells that can protect a box and prevent it from being opened by outsiders? After hesitating for a moment, Gauda asked. We must find a way to open the magic wooden box left by Master Seda. Although asking directly like this would reveal some information, he believed that he could still take the risk. Besides, if you try to hide something deliberately, you may not be able to hide it from others. Instead, it will make others more likely to think too much. Moreover, after these days of contact, some trust has been established between God and Pierre. Of course, the most important thing is that through his several contacts with Pierre, he vaguely realized that this old man is not as simple as he seems on the surface. He is definitely not just the owner of a small grocery store. He has a wide range of knowledge and is the person he knows most likely to answer his questions. Not to mention, the wooden sign at the door of the grocery store also stated Pierre's extensive business scope, part-time item recycling and treasure identification. There doesn't seem to be any big problem in treating the magic wooden box left by Master Seda as a treasure. Protect a box and make it impossible for outsiders to open it. Pierre did not disappoint God. He frowned his slightly white eyebrows, thought for a moment, and gave his answer, based on your description, what I can think of is the secret lock. Secret lock? Gauda raised his eyebrows. Yes, the first level spell Arcane Lock, Pierre introduced in detail. Arcane Lock can be cast on a door, box, or other closed container to lock the container with magic, greatly enhancing its security. Unless there is a corresponding unlocking spell or powerful magic, it will be almost impossible to open. This means that common physical methods, including picking the lock and violent knocking, will not be effective against a container with a secret lock. Because of this effect, the secret lock can also protect the container. Pierre explained. Of course, there may be other spells that can achieve the effect you described. After all, I only have some understanding of the most common and universal spells. The old man shook his head slightly and sighed, there are too many spells. If I want to open the secret lock, is there any way? Gauda was almost certain that the wooden box left by Master Seda was locked with a secret lock. He couldn't help but frown and felt helpless. The magic trick tracking mark was enough to make him helpless, and the arcane lock as a first-level spell was bound to make him even more helpless. If you want to open the secret lock without knowing the secret spell set when casting the secret lock, one thing I can think of is Dispel Magic, which can directly remove the spell effect of the secret lock. The other is Knocking, which can temporarily suppress the effect of the arcane lock for a short period of time. Pierre spread his hands, but Dispel Magic is a third-level spell, so forget it. Chapter 38. Spell Scroll. What about the percussion technique? Goddard noticed that Pierre had not finished speaking and asked. Knock is only a first-level spell. It's just a first-level spell. God pursed his lips, wanting to complain about Pierre's easy talking without any pain in his waist. In a place like Hogon City, first-level mages are the ceiling, and there are only a few of them in the entire city. Therefore, a first-level spell could not be described as just no matter what, but he also understood that it was in comparison with Dispel Magic. After understanding this, Gauda's restless heart finally calmed down. He understood that it would be unlikely for him to open the wooden box left by Master Seda in a short period of time. What? You want to unlock the secret lock without unlocking the spell? Pierre suddenly said with a hint of meaning. When Gauda heard this, he immediately became alert. He just looked at Pierre, who looked calm, and hesitated for a moment. He realized that he had already said this much, and there was no point in trying to hide it. Finally, he nodded and said, yes, it just doesn't look that simple. It's really not easy. There are not many first-level mages in Hogon City, and it's almost impossible to find one who masters the knocking spell. Pierre affirmed, although the knocking spell is common, it is too unpopular in terms of spell effect. It will never be the first choice for mages to learn spells. Only those with specific needs or senior first-level mages can master this spell. Pierre's words undoubtedly made God's heart sink even more. But if you think about it carefully, it makes sense. Learning magic requires a lot of money, energy, and time. Therefore, when learning spells, mages will try their best to avoid unpopular spells that are not very practical, and pursue spells with high power or high applicability. As if he could see Gaudar's disappointment, Pierre chuckled and said, however, in certain situations, these unpopular spells often have irreplaceable effects and cannot be completely ignored. So, for these spells that are not usually used but are needed at certain times, mages often do not choose to spend a lot of energy to learn and master them, but choose to buy spell scrolls as a reserve for dealing with emergencies. Spell scroll. This is a familiar yet unfamiliar term. It is familiar because in the games or novels of Jayad's previous life, the spell scroll was a classic prop that was often seen. It was strange because spell scrolls were something he had never seen before in this world. A spell scroll contains a pre-written spell, allowing a wizard who does not possess the spell to use the spell written on it once and for all. To use a spell scroll, you don't need to consume your own mana. You just need to meet the mental power requirements on the spell scroll. Also, almost all types of low-level spells have corresponding spell scrolls, which can greatly satisfy the wizard's spell-casting flexibility and ability to deal with emergencies. It can be said to be an extremely important magical item for every wizard. Pierre explained to God. There is no store selling spell scrolls in Hogon City. God confirmed. He had been to the commercial district several times during this period, and had not seen any store selling spell scrolls. That's for sure. Only a scroll master who has mastered the corresponding spell can create a spell scroll of the corresponding spell. Pierre sighed, although scroll masters are not as noble as rune masters, they are not much different from rune masters in terms of rarity. Usually only large mage organizations have the corresponding professional knowledge inheritance. So, spell scrolls can only be purchased from these formal wizard organizations. And they are usually released in limited quantities. Once they are put on the shelves, the popular spell scrolls will basically be sold out within an hour, and the less popular spells will basically be gone within a day. If you want to buy 1 or 2 spell scrolls, you need a certain amount of luck. This is the case in big cities. Where can you find spell scrolls in a small place like Hogon City? Gauda was not disappointed when he heard this, because he knew that Pierre would not go to such great lengths just to give him a spell scroll. So he patiently waited for Pierre's next words. But, Pierre paused, leaving the question in suspense. Gauda also cooperated very well and asked, but what? I have a friend in Bremen, he's a wizard from the Emerald Alliance, Pierre introduced patiently, the Emerald Alliance is one of the 3 major wizard associations in Bremen. So, it's possible for me to get a few spell scrolls through him from internal channels. It just so happens that I have to go to Bremen for some business in a while. If you need it, I might be able to get you a spell scroll for knocking. Pierre finished speaking in one breath, then looked at Godette quietly, waiting for his decision. How much does a spell scroll of knocking cost? Gauda grasped the crux of the problem. Although spell scrolls are in short supply, they are only disposable items, so the price is not particularly high. 6 to 7 Shang gold coins. This is the average price of a first-level spell scroll. The average price of a first-level extraordinary item is 65 gold coins. The price of a first-level spell scroll is only 1% of that of a ST-level extraordinary item. It seems that the price difference is still very obvious, but the former can be recycled, while the latter is just a disposable consumable. Taking this into consideration, you can see that this is a very fair and reasonable price. This is the price law of commodities. 6 to 7 Shang gold coins is also a considerable expense. With the current output of the medicine garden, it will take about half a month to save this money. However, Jayad believed that the property that was so solemnly protected by Master Seda with a secret lock must be worth far more than this number. This is a business that is sure to make money. What else do I need to give? Gauda asked very consciously. Pierre used his connections to bring him the spell scroll all the way from Bremen. Since he had no relationship with Pierre, it was impossible for him not to pay extra compensation. There is no pie in the sky. Unexpectedly, Pierre actually shook his head and looked straight at Goder's slightly childish but unusually calm face. You only need to pay the cost of purchasing the spell scroll itself. Goder lowered his eyes slightly. After a moment of silence, his slightly wrinkled brows relaxed. He raised his eyelids and looked directly at Pierre. Then I'll trouble you. As for the money to buy the spell scroll, don't worry, wait until I bring back the spell scroll of knocking before you pay. Pierre waved his hand and said nonchalantly. Chapter 39, Magic Potion Runes Extraordinary Items. Having figured out the secret of the wooden box and unexpectedly received help from Pierre, Godette did not leave immediately. He suppressed the complicated emotions in his heart and asked Pierre, Boss, do you know if there are any external objects that can assist the mage in his practice? The progress of practicing the guidance method step by step is really too frustrating. If possible, it is necessary to use some external objects to speed up the progress of practice. Gauda knew in his heart that such items must be expensive and most likely he could not afford them, but it would not hurt to understand the market conditions first. Pierre was indeed very knowledgeable. He thought for a moment, organized his words, and said, the practice of a mage is to guide the method and to meditate. Meditation cultivates one's own mental strength, without the involvement of external energy, so its practice depends more on oneself. Auxiliary items are extremely rare and precious, so they can be ignored for now. However, there are more auxiliary items for the practice of guiding methods. Fortunately, my progress in practicing meditation is not slow. Gauda thanked in his heart. Compared to his predecessor, the speed of his guidance practice did not change at all, but the progress of his meditation practice was greatly improved. Here, Pierre has already sat down behind the counter. There are many things that can assist in the practice of the guidance method, but if we classify them specifically, there are actually only 3 categories: magic potions, runes, and extraordinary items. There are essentially 2 ways. One is to improve the efficiency of the mage's own conversion of magic power into mana, and the other is to increase the concentration of magic power in the training environment. As for potions, the most common potion for training is the magic potion. The magic potion contains powerful magic power. After drinking it, the mage can directly absorb the magic power in the potion to replace the magic power that should be guided into the body through the channeling method. This is equivalent to skipping the step of guiding magic power in the practice of guiding magic. The mage only needs to transform and polish the magic power into his own mana. In this way, the speed of cultivation will naturally be faster. It's just that the price of magic potions is too expensive. For example, a set of basic magic potions, 3 small bottles, used by wizard apprentices costs 6 gold. A set of basic magic potions is enough for a first-class apprentice to practice for 6 days, while a second-class apprentice needs to use up a set every 3 days. So generally, only when the magic is about to break through, the mage apprentice will buy a set of magic potions to help break through the bottleneck. If we use it as an aid to daily practice, it would be too extravagant and not something that ordinary people can afford. One group is worth 6 gold, and if one group is consumed every 6 days, that means 360 gold a year, which is equivalent to 36 in his previous life. After Gauda calculated in his mind, he knew that what Pierre said was true. How many people can afford an annual expenditure of 36 yuan? This is just the potion expense for a first-class apprentice. For a second-class apprentice, it would be 720 gold a year. Of course, if one is really willing to spend this kind of money, it would be possible to push the apprentice guidance method to perfection in a short period of time. There must be many so-called geniuses who were fed with this magic potion. However, this is not something that Jayad can afford. Pierre could naturally see this and quickly continued. If potions are used in the first way, runes are used in the second way, increasing the concentration of magic power in the training environment. Multiple runes can be combined to form a magic array to increase the concentration of magic in a specific area. The two most well-known magic arrays that assist in cultivation are the magic crystal matrix and the magic node array. The former requires the continuous consumption of magic crystals, and the powerful magic in the magic crystals is released to increase the concentration of magic in the environment. The latter gathers the magic in the surroundings into a small area. They both have their own advantages and disadvantages. The former can increase the concentration of magic power to a greater extent, but because it constantly consumes magic crystals, the cost is also high. The latter is the opposite. Although the magic power concentration it increases is far less than the former, once the magic circle is successfully constructed, it can automatically gather magic power from all around without any consumption. The magic power in the world is constantly regenerating and flowing, which is equivalent to making a huge profit with only one investment. It is much more cost-effective. But you don't have to consider this method. There is no such thing as a zero-level magic circle. The lowest level is 1, and the construction cost of a 1-level magic circle is thousands of gold coins or more. Most mages practice by renting magic circles. The problem is that there are no magic circles that can be rented in our Hogan city. Pierre spread his hands. Hogan city is still too small, and the number of mages is too small to support the operation of a magic circle. Finally, there are extraordinary items. Some extraordinary items are made to assist in cultivation. They can automatically absorb magic power to assist the owner in cultivation. Of course, the effects of these extraordinary items are definitely not as obvious and direct as magic circles, but they can be carried with you and are in effect all the time. Unlike magic circles, once they are set up, they are fixed in place and cannot be moved, let alone carried. Obviously, the value of extraordinary items that assist in cultivation is much higher than other types of extraordinary items. The same is true for first-level extraordinary items that assist in spiritual practice. Even if the effect is not particularly significant, it can often be sold for hundreds of gold coins, and there is always a shortage of people who can sell it. Pierre's meaning was very straightforward. Regardless of whether Jayad had the financial resources, even if he did, he would have nowhere to buy it. After thinking about a lot of things, he couldn't use any of them. Jayad was also helpless. The root of it is still one word. Poverty. After leaving Pierre's grocery store, Jayad, with 1 gold and 15 silver coins in his hand, went straight to a herbal medicine store at the end of the street. The preparation of primary spider venom potion requires 3 main ingredients, 1 snake tooth grass, 1 wormwood and 1 green spider sac. Among them, snake tooth grass and wormwood can be produced by the medicine garden itself, only green spider sacs need to be purchased from the herbal medicine store. Although Phil's potion shop's main business is the sale of potions, it also sells medicinal herbs, including green spider sacs, and the quality is guaranteed. The problem is that when Master Seda was still around, the purchase quantity was based on more than half a month's supply. Now Jayad is short of money and can only buy 1 or 2 items at a time. In this situation, it is not appropriate to go to Phil's pharmacy to purchase medicinal materials, as it may easily arouse suspicion from those with ulterior motives. Adhering to the principle of being cautious, Jayad had no choice but to go far away and purchase from a small herbal medicine store. 12 silver coins for a green spider sac that's over 1 year old. Aren't they all 10 silver coins at Phil's potion shop? How come yours is % more expensive than theirs? In the herbal medicine store, Gauda frowned subconsciously and asked about the price given by the clerk. Sir, our store has been open on this street for decades. The reason we have been able to stand firm for so long is because of the word integrity. No matter who you are, as long as you enter our store, you will receive the same respect and fair treatment. Hogan City is so small. If our store cheats customers, once the reputation spreads, our business will be gone. How could we be so short-sighted as to cheat you? The owner of the herbal medicine store heard Gauda's doubts, stepped forward and said sincerely in an unquestionable tone, the number of people going out of the city to hunt has obviously increased these days, and the price of primary spider venom potion has also risen. Green spider sacs are one of the main ingredients in primary spider venom potions and have become in short supply. Naturally, the price has gone up. Not only in our store, but all herbal medicine stores now sell green spider sacs at this price. If you don't believe me, you can go to other herbal medicine stores in the city to see if what I said is the same. Okay, then give me two. Gauda said with a pain in his heart. Although this herbal medicine store is not particularly large, it is indeed an old store that has been open for nearly 20 years. It is impossible for it to tell such a lie that would destroy its reputation. The little rooster that had not even warmed up left Jayad again. He paid it with great pain, and his savings shrank again to 11 silver coins. Chapter 40. Ju Bulet and Yi. After leaving the potion shop, God ran around the commercial district, purchasing some consumable auxiliary materials such as honey water needed to prepare potions. The price of these auxiliary materials is not high, less than 3 silver coins in total, but the main problem is that they are very trivial and time-consuming. The most troublesome thing is that in this world's monetary system, the actual purchasing power of the lowest level round copper coin is roughly equivalent to the 4 yuan and 20 cents in Gauda's previous life. It's too big. In daily life, such imprecise and large amounts of money can cause many inconveniences. To this end, in order to adapt to daily transaction needs, the people of the Principality of Shan also invented a method, which is to directly cut the round copper coins into 2 halves for small transactions. This practice will lead to currency depreciation and is officially prohibited by Shan. However, because the situation is so common, it has gradually become the default unspoken rule. This round copper coin that is cut into 2 halves is called a half-circle copper coin, and its actual purchasing power is equivalent to 2 yuan. With the addition of half-circle copper coins, daily transactions will be much more convenient than before, but it is still not sophisticated enough. At this time, we have to rely on rounding up and subdividing the accounting units to make a consolidated settlement. Like this moment. Rye bread is 1 pound and 1.5 coppers, and wheat bread is 1 pound and 4 coppers. The baker's clerk shouted in a rhythmic tone. The bread in this world, especially the rye bread, is much thicker and denser than the bread that God knows. In scientific terms, it is high in fiber, so it helps you stay resistant to hunger. 1 pound, about 450 grams, of rye bread is enough for an adult to eat for about 2 days, and enough for the apprentices in the medicine garden to eat for 2.5 days. 8 people would need about 3 pounds of rye bread a day. The bread-making technology of this era was relatively primitive, without adding chemical preservatives in the modern sense. The shelf life was relatively short, and it would become dry, hard, and deteriorate after about a week. It would be most appropriate to buy a 6-day supply, which is 18 pounds of brown bread. Goder couldn't help but take another look at the wheat bread, which was much whiter and tenderer than the rye bread and had an overall light golden color. He took a deep breath of the aroma of wheat bread, which was a mixture of wheat, caramel, and slight smoke, and finally turned his head away firmly. "Give me 18 pounds of rye bread," he said to the clerk. The taste of wheat bread is undoubtedly much better than that of rye bread. Likewise, the price is much higher. This is because wheat has high requirements for growing conditions, prefers warm and fertile land, and its yield per unit area is not as stable as rye and barley, so its price is much higher than rye. The price of wheat bread, a processed product, is more than twice that of rye bread, and is mainly consumed by wealthy businessmen and upper-class farmers. In contrast, rye bread is the daily staple food of the general public. To be honest, it's not like God couldn't afford wheat bread now. But the problem is that based on the moral values he has developed through modern education, he is unable to make any distinction for the time being. Now the output of the medicine garden is the result of everyone's efforts. Although he is the main producer, he is embarrassed to enjoy the wheat bread alone, and lets other apprentices in the medicine garden continue to eat rye bread. Only when he owns his own private property can he let go of this moral burden. If everyone's staple food is changed from rye bread to wheat bread, the daily expenditure on staple food alone will increase by Gauda subconsciously did the math in his head. The difference between 4 and 1.5 multiplied by 3 is 7.5 coppers. For 1 year, that is 360, which equals 2,700 copper coins. Converted into silver coins, it is 225 silver coins. Converted into Shan gold coins, the non-decimal currency system is indeed anti-human. While complaining about this incredible monetary system, Jayad came up with the answer: 11 gold coins plus 5 silver coins. This is just the extra expense for staple food. As the quality of staple food increases, other expenses will naturally increase as well. Just like during famine, everyone ate steamed corn bread with pickles. When life got better and they could afford rice, the side dishes naturally had to be upgraded as well. It was impossible to eat pickles anymore, right? One reason. Well, the team is still in the startup phase, so it will still be a bit hard. Gowda nodded seriously and said to himself. 18 pounds of rye bread, 27 coppers for you. The clerk deftly packed 36 loaves of rye bread into a paper bag while quickly calculating the price. Goddard carefully took out 2 silver coins and 3 copper coins from his pocket as change from the potion ingredients he had bought earlier, handed them to the clerk, and took the paper bag containing the bread. 18 pounds of bread is about 8 kilograms, which is not a particularly exaggerated weight. But the thought of having to walk for an hour with an 8-kilogram load to get back to the medicine garden still gave Gowda, who was obviously thin due to long-term malnutrition, a headache. The task of purchasing food was previously assigned to 2 older apprentices in the medicine garden. If 2 people share the weight, it won't be a big deal. Let's go back in a carriage. Jayad made a luxurious decision. Since we have decided to go back by carriage, we don't have to worry about the weight. After leaving the bakery, God headed to the pea and lamb market, which was only 1 street away from the commercial district. According to Jayad's understanding, the pea and lamb market is a vegetable market. There are many simple stalls here. Most of the stall owners are local farmers, selling crops they grow themselves. There are also a few fixed storefronts. Here, Goddard first spent 1 silver to buy 2 pounds of the cheapest pork, and then bought 6 days' worth of green peas, turnips, potatoes, and cabbage. These are all easy to preserve vegetables, and after intentionally rounding up the amount, another 3 silver coins were spent. Carrying large and small bags of items, Gowda stood at the street corner for a while. A sharp-eyed carriage driver had already noticed him and judged that Gowda was most likely a potential customer. He drove his 2-wheeled carriage over and stopped in front of Gowda. There are 2 kinds of carriages in the city, one is a 4-wheeled carriage, and the other is the 2-wheeled light carriage in front of you. The 2-wheeled carriage adopts an open design, with no top cover, only a circle of low fenders surrounding the seat, which makes the carriage appear lighter and run faster. The driver, wearing a distinctive hat and holding the reins, greeted enthusiastically, "Sir, do you need a carriage? My horse is the strongest and runs the fastest. How much does it cost to go to Seda Medicinal Garden?" Gowda asked the price. The medicine garden has always been named after Master Seda. After years of operation, it has gained a little fame in Hogan City. At least for the coachmen who are very familiar with Hogan City, it is not a strange place name. The starting price is 7 coppers for the first 2 kilometers, and 3 coppers for each kilometer after 2 kilometers. In the suburbs, it is 6 coppers for each kilometer. From here to Seda Medicinal Garden, it's a little over 5 kilometers by main road. The last kilometer is in the suburbs, and it costs 19 coppers. The driver calculated the total price neatly. If you walk, it's actually only 4 kilometers from the medicine garden to here, but some of the small roads are not accessible to carriages, so you have to take a detour, which extends the journey. Okay, let's go. Gowda took out 2 silver coins from his pocket and handed them to the other party. After taking the change of 5 copper coins from the other party, Gowda got into the carriage. The carriage has 2 seats, arranged face to face, and can comfortably accommodate 2 adults. There was a storage space under the seat, where Gowda placed the items he had purchased. After sitting down firmly, the coachman flicked the reins and whip, controlled the carriage and set off. "I only have 1 silver and 5 bronze coins left. I make money in the city and spend it in the city. I want to take everything home when I leave." Gowda sighed in his heart while enjoying the carriage. It's not easy to live here. Chapter 41, Beast Ring. The breeze was blowing gently along the way, it was so pleasant. There are occasional bumps, but it also has a unique flavor. It's true that people who spend money are different. Guest, we have arrived at Seda Medicinal Garden. In less than half an hour, the carriage had stopped at the gate of the medicine garden, and the driver turned around and greeted Gowda. Gowda nodded slightly, took out his belongings from under the seat, and got off the carriage reluctantly. Gowda pushed open the gate of the medicine garden. As soon as he entered the medicine garden, an apprentice who was cleaning the garden noticed him immediately. He came up to him very sensibly and took the bags from his hands. Gowda didn't hesitate to say, "Send the bread, vegetables and meat to the kitchen, and send the rest to my workshop. Also, tell Ramos to have a snack at noon, meat and potatoes stew." "Okay." Hearing the words potato stew with meat, the apprentice swallowed subconsciously, his eyes shining, and responded excitedly. In fact, he was not the only one who was craving for meat, Gowda was also very craving for it. Since coming into this world, he has never eaten meat. This is simply unimaginable for Gowda, a modern man. He has always loved meat. If he doesn't have meat in a meal, it's like he hasn't eaten the meal. When he thought of this, Gowda's mouth seemed to be filled with the aroma of gravy. In the end, although Jayad's expectations were not disappointed, they were not satisfied either. "We did eat meat, but the taste was not as good as we expected. Because, in this world, unless they are wealthy, most common people don't have much seasoning at home, and their methods of processing meat are very simple: boil water to blanch the meat, then add potatoes and peas, and stew them together with a little salt and a slightly spicy herb called cinnamon. Stew for more than half an hour and then serve directly." The potato stew with meat cooked in this way is not bad, but it is far from the taste of potato stew with meat in Jayad's impression. It is purely supported by the deliciousness of the meat itself. However, the apprentices and even Gowda still enjoyed the meal very much. For them who haven't eaten meat for a long time, as long as the meat is not burnt or rotten, it will taste good no matter what. "I must live a life where I can have meat for every meal." After a full meal, Gowda made a great wish in his heart. There is another great benefit after becoming the owner of the medicine garden. Jayad's daily schedule was originally fully scheduled in the morning. He does the daily work in the medicine garden, including growing herbs and raising little grey mice. In the afternoon, he prepares potions, and in the evening, he practices. But given his position in the medicine garden, he naturally no longer needs to do those basic daily work. In other words, Jayad had an entire morning of free time for nothing. He had been recovering from an injury for some time, and had just been relieved from a month of tension. Gowda was enjoying his free time with peace of mind. But after this period of time, Gowda gradually began to feel restless. So boring. The main reason is that there aren't many forms of entertainment in this world. Even if you have Jayad, you can't afford it. On the other hand, he couldn't find much to fill his extra free time in the morning. Due to the limitations of his mental and physical strength, he could only prepare a set of primary spider poison potion in a day. If you increase the workload further, your mental energy will be overloaded and even affect your practice at night. The practice time is also fixed at 3 to 4 hours. If it exceeds this time, the excessive consumption of mental energy will lead to an inefficient stage of getting half the result with twice the effort. The importance of mental strength is vividly demonstrated. So when the time agreed with Pierre came, Gowda left the medicine garden early in the morning with 2 sets of newly prepared primary spider venom potions and rushed to the grocery store. Grocery store. It's settled. The other party is willing to raise the price to 8 Shan gold coins. Goddard looked at Pierre, who looked smug, and still found it hard to believe. This old guy is so good at bargaining that he could almost double the repair fee. With all these good words, why don't you go out and become a wealthy businessman instead of staying here as a small shop owner? Can I still deceive you? Pierre raised his eyebrows. But it's true that the other party was in a hurry, so I was able to raise the price so smoothly. Didn't I tell you the day before yesterday that the number of wild beasts and leyline creatures outside the city has increased significantly recently, and they have become extremely violent? Some people in the city are suspecting that it might be caused by some high-level magic plant that is about to mature and has attracted the underground creatures to move out. The old man got very detailed information and explained to Gowda, so these people sent people to search deep in the forest outside the city, but they have been searching for half a month and still found nothing. The client who asked you to repair the magic item is one of those who intends to find a high-level magic plant. Can this magic item help the other party search for the high-level magic plant he expects? Gowda asked back. Smart, Pierre praised as he fished out a plain ring from the drawer under the counter and handed it to God. This is the magical item the client wants to repair. The ring is made of polished copper and its surface is engraved with delicate rune patterns that glow slightly under the light. Gowda took a serious look. Sure enough, the originally whitish lines of one of the runes were covered with a layer of light green rust. The originally continuous lines were interrupted by corrosion, exposing the darker metal texture underneath the ring. This ring must have suffered some corrosive damage, which destroyed the magic runes engraved on it. It's called the Animal Tongue Ring, Pierre said as Goddard took the ring. It has a level 1 spell, Talk with Animals. This spell allows a person to temporarily have the ability to talk with animals. If people can't find something, maybe we can only ask animals. Gouda already understood the client's thoughts. That's right, Pierre nodded and instructed, the client requires that the beast language ring be repaired within 10 days. No problem, Gouda put away the beast language ring and assured confidently, I will definitely get it done for you. God understood that the reason why he could get the beast language ring so easily without any guarantee or even meeting the client was entirely because Pierre took all the risks. The monk can escape but the temple cannot. Pierre's grocery store is located here. You can't just run away just for a broken first-level magic item, right? It is for this reason that the client can hand over the beast language ring to Pierre with such confidence. But Pierre gave him the beast language ring purely out of trust. Jayad is very grateful for this trust. After putting away the beast language ring, Jayad took out the 2 sets of primary spider poison potions he brought this time. Pierre still bought it at the price of 35 silver coins per set. With the huge sum of 70 silver coins he had just received, Gouda went straight to the herbal medicine store and spent 60 silver coins to buy 5 one-year-old green spider sacks. There is no way, green spider sac is one of the 3 main ingredients of primary spider poison potion. Without this, it is impossible to prepare the primary spider venom potion. Gouda, who paid the money with great pain, actually wanted to buy a book on herbal cultivation or medicinal material identification. But unfortunately, it is impossible for the herbal medicine store to sell this kind of thing. Although it is not as precious as a prescription, it is also something people eat and is enough to be passed down for several generations. Knowledge is extremely precious and expensive in this world. This made God more eager to open the wooden box left by Master Seda. There was a high probability that there was a recipe for a primary endurance potion in the box. Chapter 42. Animals Talking. After returning to the medicine garden with the broken beast language ring, Gouda devoted himself to his new job. Repair the beast language ring, mix potions, and practice guidance and meditation. This is Jayad's top priority right now. The 13th day of the month of spring buds. All 5 green spider sacks were consumed again, in exchange for 5 sets of high-quality primary spider poison potions. The quantity of goods this time was barely enough, so Goder directly took the 5 sets of newly formulated primary spider poison potions to Phil's potion shop for delivery. The 2 parties have been cooperating for many years and the transaction model has been fixed. So this transaction went very smoothly without any setbacks. The only difference was that this time, Jayad exchanged the receipt for payment on the spot, 10 glittering Shan gold coins. It is worth complaining that the price of green spider sacks, which are the main ingredient of primary spider venom potion, has increased by 20% due to the sharp increase in sales of primary spider venom potion. However, the purchase price of the primary spider venom potion given by Phil's potion shop remained unchanged, still 2 gold per set. However, these are prices agreed upon in advance. It is a favor for others to raise the price for you, and it is also normal not to raise the price. With some resentment, God did not have to go far this time. He directly spent a lot of money at Phil's potion shop, spending 9 gold coins and buying 15 green spider sacks in one go, enough for half a month. He was afraid that if this continued, the price of green spider sacks would continue to rise. The 16th day of the month of spring buds. It was also the 8th day since I received the beast language ring. All right. Looking at the beast language ring on the table with the green embroidery removed and the runes delicate and complete, Gouda smiled with satisfaction. He concentrated his mental energy on his body and did a final check. The next moment, a stream of information from the ring fed back into his mind. Wearing the ring will have a slight sobering effect. The first level spell Speak with Animals can be cast once a day without cost. Speak with Animals, Divination, first level, you can ask the animal questions and receive answers, but the spell does not make the animal friendlier or more cooperative. Moreover, cunning and alert animals may give vague and brief answers, and if the animals are not very intelligent, they may also say stupid things. If the animal is friendly to you, it may help you or even be at your disposal. The information flow feedback indicates that the magic of the beast language ring has been restored, and it also means that Jayad has successfully repaired the broken beast language ring. The task was completed 2 days ahead of schedule. In fact, Jayad was a little curious about how the spell talk to animals described asking questions to animals and getting answers, and how to get answers. It's impossible that animals can suddenly speak, right? It's a bit scary to think about it, it shouldn't be possible. Now that the beast language ring has been repaired, Gauda temporarily ended his retreat, tidied himself up a bit, and went out. When he came to the commercial district again, he clearly felt that the flow of people had increased a lot compared to before. Obviously, the impact of the increase in wild beasts and underground creatures outside the city on Hogon City is still continuing to ferment. At least for now it seems to have a positive effect, promoting the economic prosperity of Hogon City to a certain extent. Gauda shook his head, not wanting to think about these things that had little to do with him, and went straight to Pierre's grocery store. Sure, you can repair a first-level magic item in less than 10 days. The old man has always been smart. Seeing that God had not come for 8 days but came today, he guessed that the beast language ring must have been repaired. Take a look. God handed the beast language ring to Pierre with a smile. Pierre first drank a sip of tea, then put down the cup in his hand and took the beast language ring. Gauda felt a little jealous. You should know that even the lowest quality tea costs 2 coppers for a pot, but looking at the color of the tea in the cup, it is obviously of good quality. This old man is really rich. Here, Pierre had finished the inspection and nodded with satisfaction. He stroked the damaged and corroded parts of the beast language ring and exclaimed, "Your craftsmanship is really good. You can repair this level of damage to such a perfect state." Jayad grinned. This was repaired with magic, how could it not be perfect? After putting away the beast ring, Pierre reached into his pocket, took out his purse, counted out 8 gold coins, and pushed them to God. Gauda was slightly stunned. What is this? The client would not pay the repair fee in advance before seeing that the beast language ring was successfully repaired. That is the client, not a sucker. I will close the shop in the next 2 days and leave for Bremen. Before I leave, I will deliver the beast ring to the client. I will advance the repair fee to you so that you don't have to make an extra trip. Pierre explained. How long will it take? Asked Gauda. It's nearly 200 kilometers from here to Bremen. The round trip will take about 10 days. Add the time for handling affairs, and it will take about half a month. Don't waste this time. Pierre reminded. Thanks to the existence of wizards who can use their extraordinary powers to cast spells and participate in the country's infrastructure, the road conditions in the Principality of Shan are actually quite good. In addition, Pierre had sufficient funds, so he would definitely rent a horse when traveling long distances. So even though Pierre is quite old, he can still complete the 400-kilometer journey in about 10 days. Go safely and return safely, said Gauda. After leaving the grocery store, Jayad, who had a huge sum of money in his pocket, thought for a moment and went to the pea and lamb market, where he spent 2 silver and 2 copper to buy 4 pounds of meat. Today's extra meal. As time went by, Gauda's life was plain yet fulfilling, making medicine, selling medicine, and practicing. And on the 3rd day after the beast language ring was repaired, that was the 19th day of the spring bud month. Gauda, who had just materialized a 6-petal lotus not long ago, had another small breakthrough in meditation and successfully materialized the 7th petal. This speed even shocked Gauda himself. You should know that practicing meditation is inherently more difficult than guiding method. As a result, guiding method has not had a small breakthrough so far, but meditation has broken through 2 levels. Only 1 step away from the 8-petal lotus of a 2nd-class apprentice. Gauda's magic power has long met the requirements of a 2nd-class apprentice, to release 5 tricks in one breath. It's just that the progress of his predecessor's meditation technique was lagging behind, so he has always remained at the level of a 1st-class apprentice. He is now trying to fill the hole left by his predecessor. Of course, this is not a situation unique to Jayad. For 99% of mages, it is a common situation that the progress of guiding practice is higher than that of meditation. The reason is not only that meditation practice is more difficult than guidance method, but also that the things that can assist in meditation practice are extremely rare. Every 5 days, Gauda would personally deliver 5 newly prepared sets of primary spider venom potions to Phil's potion shop and charge 10 gold coins. As money gradually increased, there were more and more extra meals in the medicine garden. This is because Jayad found that his body was extremely weak due to malnutrition. Besides, he already had a lot of free time in the morning. Therefore, Jayad developed a strict physical training plan for himself, including both aerobic and anaerobic exercises, in order to enhance his physical fitness. Although he has the wind spirit and moon shadow by his side, unless there are too many surprises, he will definitely come to the fore in the future and master powerful supernatural powers. But Jayad does not look down on the improvement that exercise can bring to himself. He is well aware of the fact that only what you get can be considered yours. People who have high aspirations often have a life as fragile as paper. We'll talk about the rest later. Even if I can fly and hide underground with the power of magic in the future, that is something in the future and out of reach. Improving physical fitness through exercise is the most practical thing to do now. Being down to earth is the hard truth, and being too ambitious is not a good thing. There is a saying that goes 3 parts training and 7 parts diet. The importance of eating is beyond doubt, and protein supplementation is necessary. Moreover, his age is the growth period, which is the golden period for growth. How can he not eat meat? Jayad doesn't want to become a third-level disabled person. With the combination of exercise and snacks, it is visibly that Jayad's body is getting stronger day by day. The price is that the previous budgeted minimum expenditure of 4 silver per day has risen to 5 silver per day. Moreover, Jayad's appetite is getting better and better, and his demand for meat is also increasing. It is conceivable that the daily expenses of the medicine garden will rise again in the near future. Chapter 43. Earth Veins. During this period, every time Gauda went out to sell medicine, he would stroll around Hogan City on the way. The first is to get familiar with Hogan City, but it is also a way to relax and experience the customs of the other world. The second is to understand local customs and even prices, and deepen your understanding of the world. It was this action that made him realize that there were many more people in the city recently who were obviously not local residents of Hogan City. This made Gauda alert. He inexplicably felt that a storm was about to come. In addition, there was an unexpected gain that even Jayad itself did not expect. In this world, books are a rare and expensive commodity. Only in some larger cities are there libraries that specialize in selling books. In small cities, it is impossible to even think about it. Only nobles, scholars, and wealthy businessmen have private collections of books in their homes. This is due to the monopoly of knowledge held by the powerful class in this world. After learning about this situation, Gao Deban no longer had any thoughts of buying any books in Hogan City. But I didn't expect that while strolling around, I found a small studio selling books in the civilian area. The owner of the studio is called Dai Ruki, who was once a monk in the Bremen monastery. Most monasteries have their own libraries where monks can study doctrine. At the same time, books in their collections are copied and sold to scholars in need and even wealthy patrons. When Dalek was in the monastery, he was responsible for copying and producing books. Later, due to high maintenance costs and the depletion of funding sources, the monastery could no longer continue to operate and had to be closed. This group of monks were then sent back home. When the monastery was closed, the monks divided up the contents of the monastery and took away everything that could be moved. Dai Rich was already very old and couldn't get any good stuff, so he could only pack up some books from the monastery's collection and return to Hogan City where he was born. He is old and lacks the physical strength to do any physical work. Even though he can read, few people are willing to hire him because of his age. But people always have to eat. The old monk decided to rent a small house in a civilian area and open a small studio. He managed to make a living in his old age by producing and copying books in his studio and selling them directly to clients. The books sold by the old monk were not very valuable, and were mainly religious texts. These include guides to religious rituals, manuals on church doctrine, books on church history, and even church literature including hymns. In addition, there are a small number of heroic epics reflecting heroes and historical events, as well as a few scattered chronicles, travel notes, and books on geography and humanities. There wasn't a single book of knowledge or practical manual. Of course, even if you have Jayad, you can't afford it. Here, any book related to knowledge can be priced sky high. Those miscellaneous books in the traditional sense will be much cheaper. But this cheapness is only relative. Although the types and quantity of books are small, they are exactly what Jayad needs. He bought several travel books and books on geography and humanities, a total of 4 books, and spent 2 gold coins. This price is simply staggering. In the past, it was not uncommon to buy a pound of books for only 50 yuan. Although Jayad felt the pain, it still paid the money and followed the local customs. As soon as he returned to the medicine garden with the 4 books he had bought at a high price, Gauda couldn't wait to pick up a copy of Geography of Bremen and began to understand this world. Speaking of this, I have to thank Master Seda. If Gauda had not been taken back to the medicine garden and accepted as an apprentice, how could he have learned to read given his former status as a beggar? Here, after flipping through a few pages, Gauda showed an extremely surprised expression on his face. It's very different from what I thought. The entire Bremen region, located in the west of the Principality of Seen, is so vast that it far exceeds God's imagination. Because the overall appearance of this world is too similar to medieval Europe, and the city of Hogan is indeed not big, the productivity is extremely low in his opinion. This made God subconsciously regard the Principality of Shan as a small country of tens of thousands of square kilometers, or at most 100,000 square kilometers. His guess can be further supported by the fact that Bremen, the largest city most known to the people of Hagen, is actually less than 200 kilometers away from Hagen. As it turned out, the Bremen region alone was actually larger than he had imagined the Principality of Shan to be. The entire Bremen area is more than 400 kilometers long from east to west and 800 kilometers long from north to south, with a total area of more than 300,000 square kilometers. This is already the size of Guangdong combined with Fujian. In addition, there are 9 major rivers in the Bremen area. 7 prominent mountain ranges. Mountains, forests, swamps and lakes are everywhere. This is just the western region of the Principality of Shan. One can imagine how large the area of the Principality of Shan is. With this world's technological level, is there a way to manage such a vast territory? Won't it be out of reach? This question instinctively popped up in Gauda's mind, and he muttered, "This is unscientific." The next moment, he smiled awkwardly, realizing that he was subconsciously thinking about the problem with fixed thinking again. Although the technological level of this world is not high, equivalent to medieval Europe, it possesses extraordinary powers such as magic. Isn't the reason why extraordinary powers are called extraordinary because they are unscientific? Shaking his head, Jayad turned the page and continued reading. Such a vast area in the Bremen region is actually very desolate. With Bremen as the center, 8 small cities including Hagen form a development area of nearly 10,000 square kilometers. The remaining 300,000 square kilometers are undeveloped wilderness, filled with ferocious beasts and dangerous earth creatures. Going further, Jayad finally learned a little bit of information about the underground creatures. Although he often heard the term geovane creatures and often mentioned them, Gauda actually did not have much knowledge about them. It was a rare opportunity to see information about underground creatures, and he felt like he had found a treasure. After the planes intersected, earth veins were born frequently, and their number increased day by day. Earth vein creatures emerged, but no new earth veins were born in the Bremen area for 200 years. Jellos 12 once praised Bremen as a blessed place. The article only contains this brief description of the earth vein creatures, and then moves on to other geographical introductions. However, just this short sentence contains enough information. The planes intersect. Does this mean that there is more than one plane in this world? Or is the plane here different from the plane I know? The sentence ground veins are frequently generated, and ground vein creatures emerge is easy to understand. Ground vein creatures come from ground veins, and ground veins are continuously generated and their number is constantly increasing. The same is true for the number of subterranean creatures. As expected, a world where extraordinary powers exist is absolutely extremely complex and strange, and contains countless secrets. And the sentence "no new land veins have been produced in the Bremen area for 100 years" did make Gauda feel a little relieved. Gauda had witnessed once in the medicine garden the terrifying nature of the underground creatures. It goes without saying that the appearance of earth veins is a natural disaster for humans. Once a natural disaster occurs, there are too many uncontrollable factors. How could he, a weak first-class mage apprentice, not be affected? Gauda doesn't want to see his current peaceful life disrupted. He is still young and lacks strength, but he has unlimited potential. It's better to just grow quietly and wait until you become much stronger. Chapter 44. Return. If I say half a month, it means half a month. After the last day of the spring bud month, we enter the green leaf month, and the city begins to be full of greenery. God sent 5 sets of primary spider venom potions to Phil's potion shop, and purchased enough green spider sacks from Phil's potion shop for half a month's use. After finishing all this, he stopped by Pierre's grocery store to take a look, and was surprised to find that the store door, which had been closed for half a month, had been opened today. The familiar old man was now leisurely lying on a recliner, basking in the warm morning sunshine, looking so comfortable. Gauda showed joy on his face and leaned over. "You kid, you don't come to my store every day to stare at me, do you?" I just came back yesterday, and the store has only been open for half an hour today. There hasn't been a single customer yet, and you're here. Pierre also noticed Godet's arrival, twisted his body, stood up reluctantly, and greeted him. What a coincidence! At this moment, Gauda's mind was full of spell scrolls and the feeling of gain and loss that he might get rich soon. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Pierre is a smart guy who won't keep people on suspense at this time. Wait a moment. He moved the recliner away, walked into the warehouse inside the store, and came out after a moment. When Goddard saw Pierre coming out of the warehouse, his eyes suddenly brightened. The little old man was holding a scroll in his hand. I say you are lucky, kid. The usage rate of the knock spell is very low. The scroll masters of the Emerald Alliance only made 3 knock spell scrolls last year. There were 3 scrolls. One was put on sale, and one was consumed by the mages in the organization. This one happened to be left, and I got it. Pierre took credit for it while handing the scroll to Godard. Check the goods. Gauda took the spell scroll as if it were a treasure and examined it carefully. The texture of the spell scroll feels extremely strong and tight, with delicate fiber texture on it, giving it a natural and classical beauty. It should be made of finely processed animal skin. The parchment must have been specially treated to ensure that the magical power can be preserved for a long time. Around the edges of the scrolls were runes and magical symbols drawn in dark ink. These patterns are more than just decorative, they hold the key to unlocking magical powers. The scroll itself is tightly rolled up and tied with ropes at both ends, forming a slip knot that can be opened with just a slight pull. It can be unlocked. It won't trigger the spell. Don't worry. Pierre saw God's restlessness and hesitation and interrupted. Upon hearing this, Gauda immediately untied the knot and opened the scroll with confidence. What caught my eye was a spell written in a strange font. These words seemed to have their own life, occasionally flashing a faint light, revealing the magic contained within. Jayad did not recognize the words because they were magic words. Unless he masters reading magic or is proficient in this kind of magic text, he can understand it. However, this does not affect his use of spell scrolls. To use a spell scroll, you only need to open it, concentrate on the spell on it, and silently recite a specific intention in your heart to release the spell power sealed in the spell scroll. Of course, before using it, the user must first identify the spell and level on the spell scroll. In addition, the user's mental strength is required to reach a corresponding level, otherwise he will not be able to control the spells in the spell scroll. The spell scroll requires the user to have a mental strength that reduces the spell level by 1 level, at least a mage apprentice. That is to say, a wizard apprentice can use a first-level spell scroll, a first-level wizard can use a second-level spell scroll, and so on. After looking at it for a while, Gauda tied the scroll again and smiled. You really helped me a lot. It's just business, Pierre shrugged and said casually, it costs 7 gold to buy the scroll, and the money for the meal I treated you to through connections is not counted as yours. He stretched out his right hand and handed it to God with his palm facing up. Goddard quickly took out his pocket, counted out 7 Shang gold coins and handed them to Pierre. Pay in one hand and deliver in one hand. After a period of hard work selling medicine, Jayad's savings reached 21 gold. Just when he felt that he had more money recently, he was brought back to square one. There are only 14 gold left in the account. And in a few days I'll have to buy some sagebrush and snakeweed seedlings to plant in the herb garden. Otherwise, at the current consumption rate, the output of these 2 herbs in the medicine garden will not be able to keep up with the consumption rate by the end of the year. If it really comes to this, then we will have to purchase all 3 main ingredients from pharmacies, and the cost of making medicine will increase from the current 20-25 silver to 30 silver. The profit of a set of medicine will be reduced by 10 silver, which is too meager. You have to buy these herbal seedlings, and don't delay. Just buying the seedlings is one expense, and then you have to buy the fertilizers needed to grow the seedlings, which is another expense. After thinking about it this way, Jayad once again made a sigh that is applicable in any world. It's not easy to live here. I can only pray that Master Seta's legacy won't let me down. Although Jayad is confident that it can have a huge explosion, but what if Master Seta is an old bastard and comes up with some counter tactics? It is not impossible that there is actually nothing in the box that looks heavily protected, and the truly valuable things are actually placed in the most conspicuous place. If that was the case, it seemed that he could do nothing except curse Lao Deng a few times. You can't just dig up someone's body and whip it to vent your anger. The recent changes outside the city may not be as simple as imagined. Seeing God putting away the spell scroll and preparing to leave, Pierre hesitated for a moment, but finally stopped God and kindly reminded him, "You can usually stock up on some food, so that you won't be unprepared when something bad happens." Gauda was startled and asked humbly and sincerely, "What do you mean by bad things?" Based on his understanding of Pierre, he did not think that the old man would make groundless and alarmist remarks. The fact that he gave him this reminder must mean that he had discovered something. It's hard to be sure right now, but the increase in the number of earth-vein creatures must have a reason. I originally thought that it might be the maturation of some high-level magic plant that caused the gathering of earth-vein creatures. But this has lasted too long, Pierre said with a serious look. After such a long time, the magic plant should have matured long ago. I am not sure what is going on yet. I need to wait and see. It's just that my intuition tells me that there's a high probability that something bad has happened, but I don't know if it will affect us. Pierre sighed and revealed something. This time I went to Bremen to make arrangements for my retreat. If the situation gets bad, I will have to flee to Bremen. I hope things don't develop to that point. After all, people can get away, but my store can't. He is already old. If he really abandons the store and leaves, he probably won't be able to find a new livelihood in Bremen and can only live off his savings. This is the worst case scenario option. So, if possible, try to make some preparations. That was all Pierre said. I understand. Thanks for the reminder. Gauda nodded seriously, feeling a little more depressed unconsciously. Chapter 45. Unboxing. On the way back to the medicine garden, Gauda was able to maintain a normal pace at first. He just reached out and touched his chest from time to time to make sure the spell scroll there was still safe. As they got closer and closer to the medicine garden, Gauda could no longer suppress his anxiety and his pace became faster and faster. As soon as he entered the gate of the medicine garden, he trotted a few steps and went straight into his workshop. Gauda bent down and dragged out the large wooden box under the work table, and then took out the spell wooden box that he had carefully placed. Then, he took out the extremely precious spell scroll from his arms, the scroll that contained the spell knocking. After thinking about it, Gauda, who had been impatient for a long time, forced himself to calm down. He did not use the spell scroll immediately, but went out to the bathroom to wash his hands. I would rather trust it to have it than to trust it to have nothing. What he is going to do next is equivalent to opening a blind box. And you have to spend money to open the blind box. This is a spell scroll that I bought at a huge price. If nothing good comes out of it, all my money will be lost. Therefore, before opening the box, the necessary sense of ceremony must be arranged. In a world full of metaphysics, it's not shameful to believe in metaphysics. After washing his hands and returning to the workshop, Gauda finally picked up the spell scroll. He simply pulled the knot on it, and the spell scroll was opened, lying flat in his hand. Gauda took a deep breath and focused his mind on the scroll in his hand. In an instant, the obscure magic words on the scroll began to glow and resonated with God's spirit. Feeling the powerful force, Gauda's mind moved, and he sent out the intention to drive the magic wooden box on the table. Driven by God's will, the light on the spell scroll suddenly burst out, spreading a magical fluctuation that was invisible to the naked eye but could be clearly felt by the mental power. This magical fluctuation seemed to be given life, and instantly turned into a flash of lightning, shooting out along the direction of God's thoughts, and went straight to the wooden spell box on the table. The wave penetrated the air and hit the invisible secret lock on the wooden box. The moment the two collided, a layer of ripples like water waves appeared on the surface of the wooden box. It was like the surface of the water was broken by a stone, causing a series of tiny and dense cracks to erupt. Cracks kept appearing and disappearing. Every appearance and disappearance was accompanied by a slight sound. With the last crack, the ripples finally disappeared, indicating that the magical power on the wooden box was temporarily suppressed. As the magic power contained in the spell scroll in Jayad's hand dissipated, it turned into fluorescent dots and dissipated into the air. It is common sense that the scroll will disappear after use. Should it be opened now? Gauda thought to himself, looking at the wooden box in front of him which seemed to be no different from before. He knew he had to quickly open the wooden box and take out the items inside. Because Pierre told him that the knocking technique cannot break the secret lock, it can only temporarily suppress the spell effect of the secret lock. Once the time is up, the secret lock will take effect again. Although he knew that time was running out, Gauda did not act rashly. Instead, he took a few steps back until he reached the door and opened it so that if anything unusual happened, he could escape at any time. Then, a barely perceptible glimmer of light gathered at God's fingertips. A translucent, floating ghost hand appears. Under his control, the ghost hand stretched forward and gently and accurately touched the wooden box through the air. Hand of the Mage. May the yellow and black king of good luck bless you. After Gauda prayed silently in his heart, he controlled the mage's hand and pushed gently. Creak. With a slight friction sound, the wooden box that had been impossible to open with all the effort was opened easily. Gauda took a quick glance from a distance and saw that although the wooden box was not very big, it contained quite a lot of things. It's not an empty box. There was a hint of surprise in Jayad's eyes. He did not dare to delay, fearing that the secret lock would take effect again, so he quickly controlled the wizard's hand to take out everything in the box. As the items in the wooden box were taken out, Jayad's eyes became brighter and brighter. First, 3 thicker books. Later there were 5 much thinner booklets. Beneath that were 3 pieces of old parchment. Next was a small stack of paper, about 20 pages in total. The pages got older as they went down. The pages at the bottom had turned yellow, and it looked like they had been through some time. Further back is a scroll tied with a rope, which looks somewhat similar to a spell scroll. The last thing he took out made Gauda's breathing quicken. It is shining with golden light, exuding a charming temptation. It is round and has a heroic little rooster pattern engraved on it. Shang gold coins. Master Seda pressed the gold coins at the bottom of the wooden box. A full 50 Shang gold coins. Gauda, who had never seen or owned so much money, could not contain his excitement. Praise the king of yellow and black. Gauda could feel his heart pounding. This wave made me rich instantly. This is what you deserve for taking such a huge risk to kill a senior third-class wizard apprentice. At this time, everything in the wooden box had been taken out. After confirming that there was no hidden danger in the wooden box, Gauda quickly closed the door and walked impatiently to the wooden table and grabbed the 50 gold coins to play with them. The gold coins collided in his hands, making an extremely pleasant sound. The cold metallic texture makes Jayad love it even more. Not long ago he was still feeling bad about having an extra meal. He wanted to break a copper coin into 2 halves to spend, but the thought of breaking the coin into 2 halves would reduce its value, which stopped him from doing so. Now seeing so many gold coins, he felt a little unreal. How should I spend so much money? After playing with the 50 gold coins left by Master Seda, God shifted his gaze to the open wooden spell box beside him. He knew that after a while, the secret lock on the wooden box would take effect again. At that point, the box will be locked again and cannot be opened again. Gauda thought for a moment, then had an idea. He searched the table and found a small stack of waste paper and put it in the box, just enough to fill it up, and then closed the box. At this moment, a ripple of light appeared. The arcane lock was reactivated just in time. Gauda looked at the box that had been closed again and smiled knowingly. The student surpasses the master. Just because Master Seda doesn't play the anti-routine doesn't mean he doesn't play it. After doing all this, Gauda began to calm down and check the other spoils. Chapter 46, The 3 Principles of a Mage. First were the 2 books that were placed on the top layer of the wooden box and were taken out at the beginning. Their names are written on the cover of the book. It is the Apprentice Guidance Method and the Apprentice Meditation Method. Gauda picked up the 2 books and flipped through them. After confirming that they were consistent with the practice methods he remembered, he put them down. It seems that Master Seda is not so insidious as to hide something while teaching his disciples the Dharma. Of course, the more likely possibility is that Master Seda never took beggars like them seriously at all. He would never have thought that any of them would have the ability to threaten him. After reading the title of the thinner book, Gauda's heart was filled with excitement. The Mage's Apprentice's Handbook, An Introduction to Spells. This is an introductory book for mage apprentices. It may seem insignificant, but it is exactly what AMAP needs most right now. Master Seda never treated his apprentices as his real apprentices, so he never taught them the mage knowledge properly. Even though Jayad has mastered 5 spells now, his understanding of the world of mages is actually the same as that of ordinary people. He is the typical person who knows nothing when asked. This is equivalent to learning English by marking pinyin. It seems to make sense, but in fact, you have not built a knowledge system at all. The more you learn, the more difficult it becomes, and you will fall behind sooner or later. Thinking of this, Gauda had already opened the book with great interest. A striking line of words on the title page caught his eye. The 3 Great Principles of a Mage. Jayad is not unfamiliar with this term. Amy had told him one of the 3 great rules. Never let anyone know your spells. At first Gauda seemed to understand it, but he knew the principle of know yourself and know your enemy, and you will win every battle. But he didn't understand why magic was considered so important and even listed as one of the 3 major principles of a wizard. But after the battle with Master Seda, Gauda finally had a deep understanding of this sentence. If he didn't know that Master Seda mastered the spell of Fire Arrow, how could he have thought of the killing move of Dust Explosion? If he had not known in advance that Master Seda had mastered the Flash spell, he would have died on the spot from Master Seda's spell combo. Spells are the lifeblood of a mage. That is why Jayad is full of curiosity about the complete 3 principles. He moved his gaze downwards. 1. Knowledge is power. 2. Never let others know your spells. 3. Although magic is omnipotent, it is not omnipotent. Okay. The complete 3 principles made Jayad feel a little confused. He could still understand the first one, knowledge is power. Although from his current perspective, it should be called knowledge is money. The second rule is never let others know your spells. Jayad has a deep understanding of it. However, he believes that it would be more accurate to never let anyone know all of your spells. Since the wizard possesses extraordinary powers, it is impossible for him not to cast spells. As long as you cast a spell, others will inevitably know about it. So it is impossible to hide all your spells, but it is true that you must never expose all your spells. To achieve this, there are 2 aspects to start with: either you are cautious enough, or your spell library has a rich enough reserve of spells. However, the third sentence, although magic is omnipotent, it is not omnipotent, was a little difficult for Gauda to understand. It seemed to be similar to the classic saying of his previous life, money is not omnipotent. But when I think about it carefully, I feel that the meaning seems to be completely different. After thinking about it for a while, he still couldn't figure it out. After Gauda firmly memorized these 3 principles in his mind, he stopped thinking about it and turned to the next page of the book. What is the spell? The title is eye-catching. A spell is an independent magical effect. It is a process of reshaping the magical power that permeates the world and manifesting it in a specific way in a specific area. Spells can be used as a convenient tool, a necessity for survival, a weapon, or a protective barrier. They can create or heal damage, they can create or eliminate certain conditions, they can draw or give life force, they can create or destroy everything. Magic, omnipotent. This should be considered the general outline of the book. Gauda's mind was a little moved, as he was moved by this rigorous academic yet extremely arrogant introduction. Can magic really be omnipotent? Who knows? Anyway, a mage apprentice definitely can't do that. Gauda was very self-aware and continued to read. Spell ring level. Each spell belongs to one of the levels from 0 to 9, although 9th level spells have not yet appeared. The level of a spell roughly indicates its strength and complexity, but low-level spells are still incredibly magical, such as the first-level spell Magic Missile. Even among the 0-level spells that are often not recognized by high-level mages, there are classic spells such as Mage's Hand. The interesting thing is that these high-level mages who do not recognize 0-level spells as spells can hardly do without this spell in their daily lives. The classification of spell levels is common knowledge that even Jayad knows, but there are also details that he doesn't know. 9th level spells have not appeared yet according to the correspondence between the mage level and the spell ring level. Does that mean that there is no 9th ring mage in this world yet, and the most powerful one is the 8th ring mage? Gauda's mind was wandering, and he couldn't help but think. He could think about it, but he couldn't think too much about it. As a first-class mage apprentice, he shouldn't waste time thinking about the existence of 8th ring mages and 9th ring mages, the top mages in the world. Spell rules. Anyone who casts a spell should follow the same set of rules, namely casting time, casting distance, and spell duration. Casting time is the time it takes for a mage to activate the spell model. Generally speaking, the higher the level of a spell, the more complex and large the spell model is, the longer it takes to activate it, and the longer it takes to cast it. But this is not absolute. Although some spells are not of high level, they may take several minutes or even hours to cast. Some mages have special talents and can cast spells in a very short time or even instantly. Casting range. The target of a spell must be within the casting range of the spell. For example, for spells like Magic Missile, the target is a creature, while for spells like Fireball, the target is a point in space. There are also some spells that only affect the caster himself. The casting range of these spells is himself. However, once a spell is cast, the range of its effect is no longer limited by the casting distance, except for certain specific spells. The duration of a spell is the length of time that the spell takes to take effect. The duration of different spells varies greatly and can be measured in seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, or even years. Some spells even last until the spell is broken. Many spells are ephemeral. These spells instantly damage, heal, create, or change a creature or object in some way. Because their duration is only a moment, their effects cannot be undone later. Chapter 47. New Spells. Gauda was so engrossed in reading that the workroom was silent except for the occasional rustling sound of him turning pages. School of Magic. The effects of spells vary greatly. Based on the effects of spells and the way the wizard manipulates mana, the numerous spells are divided into different categories, namely spell schools. Spell schools are artificial classifications that only serve as a supplement to the description of spells and do not carry any rules themselves. There are 8 schools of spells. Protection School. The essence of protection spells is protection, but they also have some offensive uses. Abjuration spells can create barriers, counteract harmful effects, harm intruders, or drive creatures to another area. School of Conjuration. Conjuration spells involve transporting creatures or objects from one place to another. Some spells summon creatures or objects to the caster, some transport the caster to another place, and some spells create objects or effects out of thin air. School of Prophecy. Prophecy spells reveal information. It can be in the form of lost secrets, visions of the future, hidden treasures, the truth of illusions, visions of distant people or places. The information is so vast that it is impossible to summarize it all. School of Enchanting. Enchanting spells can affect the minds of others, changing or controlling their behavior. These spells may cause the enemy to regard the caster as a friend, or force a creature to perform certain actions, or even manipulate other creatures like puppets. School of Evocation. Evocation spells shape magical power into desired effects. Some evocation spells will summon a burst of lightning or fire, while others will channel energy to heal wounds. In short, among all the spells of all schools, evocation spells have the most destructive power. Illusion School. Illusion spells can deceive the senses and even the mind of others. They can make you see things that aren't there, or not see things that are there. They can also cause people to hear hallucinations or remember things that did not actually happen. Some hallucinations can be seen by anyone, and the most bizarre ones can even be directly implanted into a creature's mind. Necromancy. Necromancer spells manipulate the energies of life and death. Necromancy spells can grant creatures extra vitality, or draw life energy from others. This can create undead creatures, or even an alternative form of resurrection. Note, the use of necromancy to create undead creatures, such as manipulating corpses, has been strictly prohibited. Gauda noticed this line of notes, which was circled heavily by Master Seda. School of Transmutation. Transmutation spells cause the properties of creatures, objects, or environments to change. They can turn enemies into harmless creatures, or enhance the strength of allies, or make objects come alive to obey the wizard's orders, or enhance the natural healing ability of creatures, allowing them to recover quickly from injuries. Although spells are divided into 8 major schools, mages are not divided into schools. A wizard should normally master the spells of the 8 major schools, and it is rare for a wizard to specialize in one school. This behavior is not wise, and can even be regarded as stupid. After closing the apprentice manual, Gauda let out a long sigh, feeling that he had benefited a lot. His knowledge of magic was indeed too little and almost unsystematic. This introductory book titled Mage Apprentice's Handbook is worth a fortune to him at this moment. A mature wizard who has mastered the magic of the 8 major schools can, to a certain extent, be said to be omnipotent. Gauda sighed and finally understood why the book began with such big words as magic, omnipotent. It's just that the areas covered by magic are too comprehensive. Before this, his perception of magic was actually more inclined towards being a kind of powerful force. Now it seems that it is, but not entirely. Strength is only part of the magic. This can also explain Jayad's question in such a metaphysical world: why is magic the only supernatural power? Because magic can do everything that other supernatural powers can do. However, what magic can do may not be possible with other supernatural powers. 2 transmutation spells, 2 conjuration spells, and 1 protection spell. Gauda reviewed the spell reserves in his spell library and felt that it was too poor. It didn't even have half of the 8 major spell schools. Fortunately, I can expand my spell library now. God picked up 5 much thinner booklets under the apprentice manual. That's right, these booklets are exactly the spell recipes left by Master Seda. With excitement and anticipation, Gauda carefully read through the 5 spell recipes left by Master Seda. Tracking mark, transmutation, level 0. Contact with any exposed part of a living creature will leave an indelible mark if the creature does not resist. As long as the mark exists, you will be able to sense the whereabouts of the creature, but the range must not exceed 50 miles, otherwise it will be ineffective. The mark can be scraped off with a sharp knife. The mark disappears upon the caster's death. Flash, evocation, 0 level. Creates a burst of light that dazzles creatures within 10 meters. A creature without sight or one that is dazzled is unaffected by the flash spell. Touch of fatigue, necromancy, level 0. When you touch a target, you can cause it to become fatigued. You must hit the target with a successful touch attack. The opponent will immediately fall into fatigue for the duration of the spell. This fatigued state is different from normal fatigue in that it disappears after the spell duration ends. This spell has no effect on a creature that is already fatigued. Normally, the duration of this spell is 6 seconds, but it is affected by the target's physical condition and even mental strength. Detect magic, divination, level 0. You can detect the auras of spells and spell items within 20 meters, determine whether there is a magical aura, and detect the number and strength of magical auras. A magical aura leaves a residual aura behind after its source is destroyed, if the source is a magic item, or dissipated, if the source is a spell. If a detect magic spell is directed toward the location and viewed, it will indicate the presence of a dim aura. How long a dimmed aura lasts depends on the power of its source. The amount of information you gain depends on when you cast the spell. The range of detect magic is 20 meters, and the object must be within your line of sight. Flame arrow, evocation, level 0. You hurl a handful of fire at a creature or object within 120 feet, 40 meters, making a ranged spell attack against the target. If the attack hits, the target takes fire damage. Flammable objects hit by this spell will ignite. Chapter 48, Spiritual Potion. 5 spell recipes, neither repair nor mage's hand are among them. Nor was there the strange spell that Master Seda had used when he questioned him, which had caused him unbearable pain. Obviously these spell scrolls do not include all the spells mastered by the Sedan wizards. But it is normal, as there are more ways for mages to learn spells than spell formulas. Besides, even if a wizard learns spells through spell formulas, he or she may not continue to save the spell formula after successfully constructing the spell model. After all, under normal circumstances, once a spell is mastered, the spell formula has lost its value. Unless you have the evil intention of reselling it. Although the 5 spell recipes are not complete, all of them are old acquaintances of Jayad. Tracking mark doesn't need to be mentioned. Touch of Fatigue is obviously the close combat spell mastered by the Seda mage that Amy revealed at the beginning. Jayad had personally tried out Flash and Fire Arrow during his showdown with Master Seda. As for Detect Magic, Goddard had also seen Pierre use it. 5 tricks, all very practical and powerful. With 5 new spell recipes in front of them, any apprentice wizard would be in a state of happy worry. Which spells should I choose to learn first? After all, for a wizard apprentice, it takes at least half a year and at most a year to master a trick. Therefore, it is necessary to prioritize learning. People's energy and time are always limited. Just like studying, when ordinary students choose cram schools, they usually choose 1 or 2 cost-effective subjects that can improve their scores quickly and make special breakthroughs. Of course, this is the way ordinary students think. For the top student, there is only one sentence: I want them all. A top student has no weaknesses. Jayad has always played the role of a top student since he was a child. Fortunately, even in a different world, Jayad can still continue his role as a top student in the field of magic. Want them all, the order in which the spells were learned was not important to him. Just pick out a spell recipe and start building a spell model. Anyway, it's just a matter of a few days earlier or later. Gauda contentedly put down the 5 spell formulas for the time being, picked up the 3 old parchments and started to look through them. As expected, it was the recipe for the magic potion he had been dreaming of. He first pulled out one of them. Primary Spider Potion, level 0 potion has a strong paralysis effect, but is not lethal. Main ingredients: 1 snake grass, 1 wormwood, 1 green spider sac. Gauda was very familiar with the primary spider poison potion. He took a quick glance at it and put it aside without looking at it carefully. The second prescription that Gauda picked up was the one that interested him the most, the primary endurance potion prescription. Primary Stamina Potion. Level 0 potion significantly enhances the drinker's physical strength and endurance without obvious side effects. Main ingredients: 1 piece of alpine ironwood root, 1 piece of scorching sun fruit core, 1 portion of wild wolf gland fluid. Auxiliary ingredients. Preparation steps: dry the fresh sunberry in the midday sun for 3 days, then break it and keep the core for later use. Peel and slice the alpine ironwood root. The 3 main ingredients of the magic are the roots of the high mountain ironwood for its drought resistance and cold resistance, and the scorching sun fruit for its strong medicinal properties. Place the magic treated liang fruit core in a mortar, add an appropriate amount of mountain spring water, and grind it in a clockwise direction. During the grinding process, add appropriate amount of wild wolf gland fluid to neutralize its strong medicinal properties, but make sure that the strong potency is not less than. Until the mixture appears light golden in color. The prescription is so detailed that every step and detail of preparing the potion is described one by one. As long as you have a certain understanding and talent for mixing potions, you can completely master the mixing of the primary endurance potion by relying on this prescription and experimenting. Good. Gauda's joy was beyond words. Phil's Potion Shop offers a purchase price of 2 gold and 5 silver for the primary endurance potion, which is more valuable than the primary spider venom potion. I must master this prescription, Gauda thought to himself, and picked up the 3rd piece of parchment. Compared to the previous 2 potion prescriptions, this parchment looked much more worn, with rough edges and a darker yellow color. Gauda had a vague guess in his mind. Perhaps this is the potion that pharmacist Seda has been trying to mix for the past 10 years. While making such speculations, Gauda's eyes naturally fell on the parchment. The first line of words that caught Gauda's eye made his heart skip a beat. Spiritual Potion, Level 1 Potion. Level 1 Potion, this is a Level 1 potion. Just 2 prescriptions for Level 0 potions are enough to support the operation of a medicine garden. If I could mix a first level potion, I should be able to gain a foothold even in Bremen. While daydreaming, Gauda looked down. Psychic Potion, Level 1 potion. Taking it can temporarily improve the drinker's mental power, enhance mental perception and mental control, but it will be accompanied by slight mental fatigue after use. Drinking this potion before building a spell model will increase the success rate of building the spell model. Gauda discovered that his heart beat too early. Now is the time to really jump. Improve the success rate of spell model construction. Don't think that building spell models is as easy as doing math problems for him, this is just an exception. For the vast majority of mages in this world, constructing spell models is a headache and requires a lot of time and energy, but it is extremely important and must be done. In this case, the market for a potion that can improve the success rate of spell model construction is self-evident. No wonder old Deng has been obsessed with preparing this potion for 10 years. Besides his persistent personality, the temptation is really too great. Gauda can now fully understand Master Seda's persistence. Look down again. Main ingredients: 14/1 ounce of psychic bone powder, about g, pair of phantom butterfly wings. Supplementary materials: 1 piece of silver thread grass, times Preparation steps: take the colorful wings of the fantasy butterfly, dry them in the moonlight, and grind them into powder. Keep it for later use. For the 2 main materials of the magic transformation, take the psychedelic medicinal property of the magic butterfly wings and the psychic medicinal property of the psychic bone powder. For the 4 auxiliary materials of the magic transformation, take the guidance and spiritual enhancement medicinal properties of the silver thread grass, and take the neutralization and rate adjustment medicinal properties of times. Place the phantom butterfly wing powder and the psychic bone powder in a mortar. The prescription was still very detailed, but 3 of the 4 auxiliary ingredients were inexplicably deleted for some unknown reason. All the places where these 3 auxiliary materials appear in the mixing steps are wiped out in the same way without any omission. Obviously someone did it on purpose. After erasing the 2 auxiliary materials, Master Seda added 2 medicinal materials. Mandela bark, dried nettle. Only on the last erased auxiliary material name, Master Seda wrote the 3 words sage, and then added a mark at the end, which should mean uncertainty. After 10 years of persistent attempts, Master Seda has not been without gain. Although this achievement, Jayad is not very credible. After all, his predecessor was poisoned to death by the harvest of Master Seda. Gauda shook his head. Although he knew the value of the spiritual potion, he still put down the prescription with self-awareness. He certainly would not do something as time-consuming and costly as trying to complete the recipe for the spiritual potion, at least not in the short term. Chapter 49, Level Up Potion. What are these pages? Goddard thought as he picked up the small stack of yellowed pages placed under the potion formula. His interest became extremely high because of the huge harvest. Spell recipes and potion prescriptions are all here. He really couldn't think of any other piece of paper that was worthy of being placed so solemnly in a magical wooden box with a secret lock by Master Seda. Gowda casually flipped through a few pages, glanced at them briefly, and was stunned. It turned out to be a stack of letters. Most of them are letters from the city of Bremen. There was also a letter written by Master Seda. It should be a letter he had written and was preparing to send somewhere, but he died in Jayad's hands before he could send it out. In Jayad's opinion, Master Seda was an evil wizard with no relatives and a lonely personality. That was why he dared to take over the medicine garden with confidence. How could such a person have so many correspondences? Who is the letter addressed to? He began to feel a little worried. Could it be that Master Seda has any mage friends? If this is true, this person might have noticed that Master Seda had suddenly stopped writing letters to him, and thought it was unusual, so he came to visit him. He didn't have the confidence that he could kill another senior mage apprentice. Gowda felt a little nervous, but at the same time, he was very curious, so he quickly looked through the small stack of letters in detail. After reading it, Gowda first breathed a sigh of relief. It is not a letter to a good friend, but should be called a family letter. I guess you are not alone. Gowda couldn't help but sigh. This small stack of stationery was actually all letters sent by Master Seda's wife who was far away in Bremen. For the past 10 years, Master Seda's wife has sent him a letter every 6 months or so. It lasted for 10 years and there were 20 letters in total. From the contents of these 20 letters, Gowda roughly pieced together Master Seda's past. It turns out that Master Seda was born into a wizard family in Bremen, and could barely be considered a second-generation wizard. His family was once prosperous. At its most powerful, the family had a second-ring wizard and nearly 10 first-ring wizards, which was considered a considerable wizard force in Bremen. However, after many generations of inheritance, his family began to lack successors, and until the last 4 generations, there had not been a first-level wizard, and thus it gradually declined. By the time of Master Seda's generation, he was the only male left in the once huge family. And his talent as a mage is just average. Relying on some of the wealth left by his family and taking a lot of magic potions, he only reached the level of a third-class apprentice at the age of 35, and had almost no hope of becoming a first-ring wizard. Originally, Master Seda was very resigned to his fate. Although he had no talent for cultivation, he unexpectedly made some achievements in the field of alchemy, and successfully mastered the potion recipes that his family had obtained when it was prosperous. Although their livelihood was not as good as when their family was prosperous, they could still get by. At least they had no worries about food and drink in Bremen. However, somehow, a rumor inexplicably spread in a small area, saying that Master Seda's ancestors had passed down several precious and extraordinary items from generation to generation. Every husband is not guilty, and he is guilty of his crime. Master Seda noticed that some mysterious peepers began to appear near his home, and he also heard this rumor. Although he was not very talented, he was still a smart man at this age, and he keenly realized that there must be a dark hand behind this. As a last resort, Master Seda had to take the risk and attempt to upgrade the ring without any confidence and insufficient preparation. What is ring up? It is the process of a mage apprentice being promoted to a first-level mage. A more understandable translation is laying the foundation. Only by being promoted to a first-ring mage can one scare off these ill-intentioned peepers and deter the dark forces behind them. The result was that the promotion unexpectedly failed. Master Seda was also seriously injured by the failure of promotion, his lifespan was shortened, and he showed signs of premature aging. Those snoopers were already ready to make a move, and his failure of promotion and extreme weakness would only embolden those villains who secretly coveted his family's property. Master Seda also understood this principle. In desperation, he had to explain everything to his wife, then left his hometown, fled, and quietly came to Hogan City to live in seclusion. However, when he was on the run, in order to avoid being discovered by others and to conceal his whereabouts, Master Seda had no choice but to leave his wife and children in Bremen and escape alone. In order to ensure that he could not be traced, Master Seda had no contact with his wife for 3 years. It was not until 3 years had passed that the dark hand hiding in the dark should have lost patience and must have concluded that he had fled with his family property, abandoning his wife and children, and would no longer pay too much attention to his wife. Only then did Master Seda recontact his wife in the way they had agreed upon when they separated. Master Seda was forced to live in seclusion in Hogan City, separated from his wife and children, and was already feeling very aggrieved. Not to mention that his failure to be promoted to a first-ring mage also caused his lifespan to shorten and the vitality in his body to decline. In order to be reunited with his family, return to Bremen with integrity, and also to increase his lifespan and avoid premature death, Master Seda must try to upgrade his rings again and become a first-ring wizard. But how difficult is it for a Cedar mage with mediocre qualifications to be promoted to a first-ring mage? Especially since he had already failed once and damaged his essence, it would be even more difficult for him to upgrade his ring. Unless you drink the level-up potion, there might still be a chance. What is a level-up potion? If ring promotion means foundation building, then ring promotion potion is actually equivalent to a foundation building pill. The problem is that the preciousness of ring-up magic potion is as great as that of foundation building pill. The commonly used level-up potion in the Principality of Shan is called water of leveling. As the production of one of the main ingredients of spiritual water is extremely small, the annual output of spiritual water in the entire country is also very small. The spiritual water produced every year must first go through a round of internal digestion before a small amount will flow into the market. It is not something that Master Seda can buy at all. Fortunately, his ancestors left behind an incomplete recipe for a spiritual potion. It is said to be an ancient magic potion from the ancient Misrid dynasty. This gave Master Seda hope. As long as he completes the formula of the spiritual potion and successfully mixes it, he can use the spiritual potion formula to exchange for the spiritual water. No matter how precious and rare the spiritual water is, it is definitely not as good as the recipe for a level 1 magic potion. After drinking the water of ascension, he tried to upgrade again. If he could successfully be promoted to a first-ring wizard, the problem of lifespan would be solved, and he could return to Bremen openly and reunite with his family. With this thought in mind, Master Seda began to devote himself to completing the recipe of the psychic potion without any hesitation, almost becoming obsessed. Since reconnecting with his wife, every year, Master Seda would entrust the caravan to send a letter to his wife in Bremen to inform her of his situation that year. Although Master Seda still had some properties in Bremen, he could not take them with him when he left, so he left them to his wife. My wife rents out these properties and the rent she earns is enough for her daily life. But as a husband and father, Master Seda was always worried that his wife and children were not well fed and clothed. Every year when he sent a letter, he would enclose 50 gold coins with it. This is also the origin of the 50 Shan gold coins that God seized from the wooden box. My dearest Miss Hu, I know it has not been easy for you to raise, sell and run the household all these years. Your tenacity and wisdom have always been my greatest pride. Please continue to manage the property according to our plan and make appropriate household arrangements. As in previous years, I have arranged for 50 Shan gold coins to arrive with this letter. I hope it will be enough to support my family and make up for my debt. I have been in seclusion for a long time, and the preparation of the spiritual potion is finally infinitely close to success. If all goes well, maybe this year I can go home, reunite with you, return to your warm embrace, and we will never be separated again. When I left, Sel was just over a month old and couldn't call me dad yet. Now he is 13 years old and has become a little adult. He must have inherited your beauty and my wisdom. I heard from your letter that Searle's magic talent is far better than mine, which makes me extremely happy. When I return home, we will send Searle to the Magic Academy to study, and everything will be fine. In these days of separation, although we cannot see each other, our hearts are closely connected, just like the two wisterias in front of our window, whose roots are forever intertwined. Eternal Love. Seda. Chapter 50. Unknown Scroll. Putting down the letter that Master Seda had written long ago but had not yet sent out and would never send out, Gauda was speechless for a long time. To the apprentices in the medicine garden, Master Seda is an absolute big villain, a bad guy, and a violent person. But for Master Seda, he, like Gauda, is just a victim who is struggling to reunite with his wife and children. But now, to Master Seda's wife and children, Jayad has become the bad guy. Gauda realized this and felt extremely complicated. Even though he knew clearly that if he had not resisted at that time, he would be the one dead now. This is a situation where only one person can survive. Jayad's resistance is justified and no one can find fault with it. But after reading Master Seda's letter, Gauda still felt reluctant and guilty towards the woman who had been waiting for her husband to come home in Bremen for more than 10 years, even though she had never met him. This is something that runs in our bones and will not be easily erased by a time travel. Gauda, who had been silent for a long time, finally let out a long sigh. It's right that I killed Master Seda, and it's also right that I couldn't bear it. There's no conflict between the two. He no longer hesitated. Decisively picked up the last thing taken out of the wooden box. That mysterious scroll that looks like a spell scroll. The scroll is made of fine animal skin paper, and the edges are lavishly bordered with gold leaf. The two ends of the scroll are inlaid with two exquisite silver scroll buckles, carved with intricate patterns. Between the buckles was a thin ribbon of a deep violet, elaborately embroidered with flowing patterns in gold thread. Gauda untied the ribbon and unfolded the scroll, and a faint fragrance wafted to his face. That is the aroma brought by the preservative made from special herbs and magical materials, which makes the ink on the scroll remain as vivid as before despite the passage of time. However, Gauda did not recognize the words written on the scroll. It should be some kind of magic text. Gauda looked at it carefully and made a judgment. And in the lower right corner of these magical words, there is an exquisite seal. The seal is round, and the main pattern is a bird with spread wings standing on an open book. The feathers of the bird, the faintly visible magic symbols on the book patterns, every detail is lifelike, as if ready to jump out and become reality at any time. And above the bird is a tiny diamond pattern. I don't know. Gauda looked at it for a while and confirmed that he didn't know the origin of the seal. It is written in magic words, but it is not a spell scroll. He had checked it at the first opportunity. The magic words on the scroll did not contain any magical power. They were just used as the most common words. The scroll itself is so exquisite, it's obvious that it cost a lot of money. Could it be a high-level potion recipe? Gauda guessed, or maybe some kind of document. After all, it has a special seal on it. After studying it carefully for a while and gaining nothing, Jayad finally stopped this time-wasting behavior. At this point, all the legacy left by Master Seda has been counted an apprenticeship manual. 2 books on cultivation methods. 5 spell recipes. 2 complete 0th level potion recipes and 1 incomplete first level potion recipe. 21 letters home. A scroll of unknown origin and a full 50 Shan gold coins. The harvest was so rich that God wanted to do a somersault on the spot. After shaking his fist vigorously to vent his excitement, God opened his cabinet and hid the 3 potion recipes inside. This is a treasure, but it is not as difficult to sell as the spell formula. When necessary, you can sell it directly in exchange for a large sum of money. It is better to put the gold coins in the secret compartment of the bedroom so that you can sleep peacefully at night. There was no need to pay too much attention to the apprentice manual, the method of cultivation, and the 21 letters home, so Gauda put them back into the wooden box. As for the scroll whose purpose and origin were unknown, Gauda thought about it and felt that he should pay more attention to it, so he finally hid it deep in the cabinet. After dropping the last drop of green spider venom into the bottle in his hand, the churning liquid gradually calmed down. A faint grey-green magical light could be seen flashing through the liquid. The medicine is ready. I got 2 gold coins. Gauda skillfully packaged the primary spider poison potion he had just prepared in the large medicine bottle. Although he had just received a huge sum of 50 gold coins, this did not make him swell up and neglect the preparation of a set of primary spider venom potion every day. One is a long-term profit, the other is a sudden windfall, a one-time deal. Jayad can still tell the difference between the two. Unexpected wealth doesn't come every day. If you treat windfall as normal income, or even deliberately pursue it, and neglect your original career, something bad will happen sooner or later. Moreover, 50 gold coins may seem like a lot, but if there is no continuous output, with the increasing expenditure of the medicine garden, this so-called huge sum of money will be squandered in just half a year. From now on, you can eat as much meat as you want to replenish your body, and you can also switch from rye bread to wheat bread as the staple food. Of course, I am the only one who can afford this luxury. After all, this is my personal income. Gauda was not worried that his behavior of eating alone would cause dissatisfaction among other apprentices in the medicine garden. In fact, he has always had this power, but Gauda couldn't get over it in his heart, so he always ate and drank with his apprentices. However, now that we have more money, we can improve the food for the other apprentices in the medicine garden. We don't need to be as stingy as before. Well, if we give everyone an extra meal every 2 days, 1 pound of meat is enough for 7 people. 1 pound of meat costs 7 coppers, which means an extra 9 silvers per month. I can accept that. Gauda thought about it in his mind and made a decision. It's only been a month since we started eating meat every other day. Thinking of this, Gauda still felt a little happy. We must not forget Pierre's reminder. We need to prepare more food in the medicine garden. If something really happens, we can either run away directly or use it as backup food. It's better to be prepared. It is a consensus that food prices will rise whenever there are natural disasters or man-made disasters. Today's work is over. After stretching, Gauda couldn't wait to take out one of the 5 spell recipes on the table. Fire Arrow, Evocation, Level 0. Okay, that's you. Gauda had a deep impression of the flaming arrow. This is the spell that Master Seda uses to kill the wolf rats, the underground creatures that invaded the medicine garden. It is also his spell to seek his own death. The power is self-evident. At least at the level of magic, Gauda believed that Flame Arrow was definitely the best in terms of lethality, better than his Acid Splash. After all, it is said in Introduction to Spells, among all the spells of all schools, the destructive power of shaping spells is the strongest. Chapter 51. Spell Library Expansion. Thinking of this, Gauda had already taken out the charcoal pencil and sat down at the table. He flipped open the spell formula for Fire Arrow, picked up a charcoal pencil, and began to calculate on the blank space of the paper according to the detailed description of the formula, as if he was doing a test. Still the old steps: establish a Cartesian coordinate system, disassemble the spell star coordinates of the Fire Arrow spell model, and establish an ordered ternary array. Fire Arrow: the spell model is composed of 10 spell stars. This should be the limit of the trick, with 1 more star than the Acid Splash spell model. But for Gauda, who is about to graduate from the Department of Mathematics at Kyoto University, whether it is the decomposition of the coordinates of 9 or 10 planets, it is an elementary school math problem that cannot be simpler. Soon, the coordinates of 10 nodes appeared in the blank spaces of the formula. Gauda spent a few more minutes marking the 10 coordinates, then put down the spell formula, sat cross-legged, relaxed his body, closed his eyes, and cleared his mind. Quickly entering a meditative state, Jayad's spirit was immersed in the magnificent sea of magic stars. He began to attract the magic stars and tried to construct a spell model of Fire Arrow. Gauda exhaled a breath of foul air. He stood up suddenly, opened his half-closed eyes, and a slight smile of joy flashed in his eyes. Time flies by without us noticing. In the blink of an eye, 9 days had passed since he opened the box and obtained the legacy of Master Seda. During these 9 days, Jayad became extremely busy. But the rewards are equally huge. Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Gauda muttered to himself. Suddenly, an extremely simple information interface appeared in his mind. Spells. Ring 0 Hand of the Mage, Repair Plus, Acid Splash Plus, Freeze Ray, Increase Resistance, Fire Arrow, Tracking Mark, Flash, Touch of Fatigue, Detect Magic. Looking at the 10 spells neatly arranged in the spell column, an indescribable sense of satisfaction filled Jayad's heart. The 5 spells left by Master Seda have all been mastered by God. Although Gauda is still a first-class apprentice, even a second-class apprentice is definitely not as good as him in terms of the breadth of his spell library. It can even be said that among the third-level apprentices, only the senior ones could surpass him in the breadth of the spell library. The breadth is sufficient for now, but it would be better if the depth could be improved, Gauda muttered to himself. He looked at the spell bar and the flashing yellow plus signs after 8 of the spells. He felt that they were somewhat annoying and wanted to click on them all immediately. It's just that there is no origin. As it stands now, the best way to obtain the origin is still from the earth vein creatures. But the underground creatures all live in the wilderness outside the city. For Jayad today, going to the primitive wilderness to hunt underground creatures is still too intense and too risky. A first-class wizard apprentice has indeed mastered a certain amount of extraordinary power, but he is still too fragile. In the wilderness, there are too many uncontrollable factors. Whether it is encountering a powerful underground creature or meeting a person who is difficult to distinguish between good and evil, it is possible that Jayad will be buried in the wild. If it is not necessary, it is better not to waste it. So the thought of going out to hunt underground creatures to obtain the origin only occurred to him for a moment, and the next moment, Gauda quickly suppressed this thought. Business District. After so many days, the traffic on the street has not only not returned to its previous level, but there are even more people. The abnormality outside Hogon City is still continuing. More and more outsiders got the news and rushed to Hogon City to hunt for treasure. Seeing this, Gauda felt even more uneasy. But no matter how uneasy he was, it seemed that he could not do anything except stockpile food. Thinking of this, God first went to Phil's potion shop to sell the primary spider venom potion he had made during this period. When handing the receipt to Gauda, the pharmacy clerk asked casually, "Why are all the potions delivered these days elementary spider poison potions?" Gauda's heart was moved, but his face remained calm as he explained, "The master mage has been out for some time and is not in the medicine garden, so during this period of time, he can only provide the primary spider poison potion." The clerk was just asking casually and didn't take it seriously. "It's okay. It just so happens that the sales of primary spider poison potion are very good during this period. I'll have to spend some time trying out the primary endurance potion in the next few days." God thought to himself as soon as he left Phil's potion shop. At present, he still has to use the name of Master Seda to trade with Phil's potion shop. In the short term, the news that Master Seda is no longer here must not be exposed. Although the apprentices in the medicine garden had already reached an agreement to conceal the news together. But if it really arouses suspicion from others and they decide to investigate, it is not without flaws. At least, he couldn't guarantee that the apprentices could really keep their mouths shut. While thinking about how to continue to hide the truth, God, using Master Seda's tiger skin as a banner, came to Pierre's shop without stopping. He stepped in and was surprised to find that in the small grocery store where Pierre was almost the only one there every time he came, there were actually 3 or 4 customers today. Gauda waited patiently for a while until all the guests left. "Business is good today." Gauda was a little surprised. These 3 or 4 customers didn't just come to look around, they each bought something. "Not just today, I've been fine in recent days." Pierre was not being polite at all. With more and more outsiders, there are naturally more customers. Now the merchants in the city hope that the abnormality outside the city will continue forever. He sighed. "You businessmen have made a small fortune these days." Gauda nodded thoughtfully. "I would rather not make this fortune," Pierre said helplessly. God knew that Pierre was not Versailles. After all, it was he who reminded him to stock up on food in case of an emergency. "Are you looking for me for some big business this time?" Pierre shook his head and asked casually. Gauda first looked around, and after confirming that there was no one around, he approached the counter and asked in a low voice, "Boss, can you still contact Mr. Yam who sold me the spell formula before?" Pierre narrowed his already small eyes, and only a slit could be seen. But from the gap, a bright light came out again. "It's still a brokerage fee of 10 silver coins." Gauda was very thick-skinned and rubbed his fingers together, indicating that the benefit was not small. "Didn't you look down on the remaining 2 spell recipes?" Pierre glanced at God. "The past was the past, and the present is the present," Gauda said with a smile, "besides, we were short of money back then. You can't chew too much. It will take you a long time to master all 3 spell recipes." Pierre frowned slightly and said something meaningful. "I know. It's better to be prepared." God did not refute Pierre, but just found a reasonable reason. "We can still get in touch with him, but I'm not sure whether he is still willing to sell the spell formula." Seeing that God insisted, Pierre did not insist anymore and just said it very conservatively. "Whether he is still willing to sell the spell formula or not, as long as you help me contact him, I will pay you 10 silver coins." Gauda, who was now barely wealthy, said reluctantly, "Also, if he is unwilling to sell the spell formula anymore, you can tell him and I am willing to pay a little more." "Deal." Pierre laughed and glanced at God with a meaningful look. "It seems you have made a lot of money this time." Chapter 52. Basic Magic Potion. Gauda was shocked and realized that he was not cautious enough and was too impulsive. He had recently bought from Pierre a scroll of the knocking spell used to suppress the arcane lock, and now he was acting like a nouveau riche. Anyone who thinks about it can figure out the meaning behind this. Fortunately, Pierre was not a person with ulterior motives, and it was estimated that when he was trying to solve the secret lock, Pierre had roughly guessed something. But Gauda was still shocked and learned his lesson. Don't be so complacent in the future. Not bad, not bad, Gauda laughed and passed over the topic, then bowed and said, "Then I look forward to your good news." After agreeing on a specific time with Pierre, God said goodbye and left. The old man glanced at Gauda's back as he left, and muttered in his heart, "This kid seems to be getting more and more complicated." Pierre agreed to his request. Even though he might not be able to win, Gowder was in a good mood. At that time, Yam brought a total of 5 spell recipes. It was just because of limited financial resources that he could only choose the 3 most suitable ones according to his own situation: Acid Splash, Freeze Ray, and Increase Resistance. The remaining Blade Protection and Reading Magic were temporarily abandoned. The reason why I turned back and wanted to contact Yam again and buy the remaining 2 spell formulas from him is that I have a lot more money on hand. Secondly, he really needed the 2 spell formulas that he had given up at the beginning. In order to obtain the origin, Jayad will sooner or later have to confront the earth creatures. Blade protection that can protect against physical damage becomes particularly important. What's more, Gaudiya remembered the last time he was ambushed by 3 unemployed miners in the city. Although I was only slightly injured at the time, and I managed to force them back with spell punishment, I still get scared when I think about it now. As the saying goes, no matter how good your martial arts are, you will still be afraid of kitchen knives. One reason. At least if you master blade protection, you don't have to be afraid of the kitchen knife anymore. As for reading magic, it is of utmost importance to Jayad. It can even be said that this is his primary goal. Not to mention that as a wizard, if you don't master the ability to decipher magic texts, you will encounter a lot of inconvenience in the future. Just looking at the present, Jayad also has reasons to master the reading magic. He wanted to use reading magic to decipher the magical text on the scroll of unknown origin in the legacy of Master Seda. How can one not be curious about what is recorded on a scroll that looks extremely precious just by looking at its appearance? After leaving Pierre's grocery store, God did not return directly to the medicine garden. He thought about it, and finally made a detour to the Rose Potion Shop, which was located at the end of the street, farthest from Phil's Potion Shop. There are 3 most famous potion shops in Hogan City: Phil's Potion Shop, Phantom Potion Shop and Rose Potion Shop. The 3 potion shops all want to dominate the market and monopolize the potion market in Hogan City, so the competition among them is extremely fierce, and they are incompatible with each other. Come to the potion shop to either sell or buy medicine. Jayad's goal is the latter. Now that he had a huge sum of money in his hands, Gauda began to think about things he had not dared to do before. He was prepared to lavishly purchase basic magic potion to assist in his practice of guidance. However, it cannot be purchased at Phil's Potion Shop. He had already aroused the suspicion of Phil's Potion Shop clerk. Naturally, he had to go to another potion shop to buy basic magic potions to be safe. The market price of basic mana potion is 6 gold per set. A first-class wizard apprentice can use up a set of basic magic potions in 6 days. That is to say, if Gauda wanted to drink basic magic potions continuously, the 50 gold left by Master Seda could only support him for 50 days of practice. Although Gauda was a miser on weekdays, he could still tell the difference between realm and money. Besides, as your strength improves, it will become easier to make money. This is also true. Stepping into the door of the Rose Potion Shop, Gowder glanced around the store and did not see any basic magic potions for sale. But he didn't leave disappointed. There are still too few wizards in small cities, so the potions sold in potion shops are mainly potions that ordinary people can use. Potions like basic magic potions, which are specifically for use by mages, are not necessarily displayed in pharmacies. The shop assistants were very observant. Before Gauda could ask any questions, a young male clerk approached him and asked, "Hello, sir. What can I do for you?" He saw Goddard's eyes scanning the containers as soon as he came in, obviously looking for the potion he needed. These guests rarely need sales pitches and almost never leave empty-handed. But seeing that Gauda had almost scanned the store but still didn't speak, he guessed that Gauda probably didn't find what he wanted, so he hurried forward to greet him. "Are there any basic magic potions for sale?" "I don't see any." "Of course we have it, it's just in the medicine cabinet." "Wait a moment, I'll get it out for you." The clerk looked at Gauda with a little surprise. God was wearing brown linen, the typical attire of commoners. And the basic magic potion is obviously a luxury product, he didn't expect that Gowder's target would be it. Although he was surprised, the clerk had already squatted down in front of the medicine cabinet next to the counter, then took out an exquisite box from the drawer, carefully placed it on the counter, and opened it in front of Gauda. Inside the box were 3 small bottles of potion, the liquid of which was a crystal blue. "Look, guest." Gauda's heart moved, and a gleam of light flashed in his eyes. "Detect magic." At this moment, in his eyes, a medium brightness light that was invisible to others was flickering on the potion bottle. The condition is pretty good. After inspecting the goods, Jayad was satisfied. How much is a set? He asked as usual. Sir, one set only costs 6 gold and 10 silver. Our store has clearly marked prices and we don't bargain. The clerk said with a smile. Isn't the market price of basic magic potion 1 gold per set? Gauda's expression changed and he could no longer remain calm. That's right, the clerk patiently explained, but recently, due to the frequent appearance of ley-line creatures outside the city, many outsiders have rushed to our Hogon city. You know, a large number of these outsiders are wizard apprentices, and they also buy basic magic potions to drink. If there hadn't been this unexpected situation, the sales of basic magic potions in our pharmacy would have been very stable, and the number of sets we could sell in a year would have been roughly the same. So we were very restrained in stocking up. Now with all this commotion, it's obvious that we can't keep up with the stocking up. So we have no choice but to raise the prices. The clerk spread his hands and said as a matter of course. It's not just us. If you go to Phil's potion shop or Phantom potion shop and ask, they'll give you the same price. Again, the market determines the price. Okay, Gauda could only admit defeat after hearing this. He gritted his teeth in hatred and said, give me 2 sets. Okay. The clerk immediately squatted down enthusiastically and took out another set of basic magic potions from the medicine cabinet. Any business worth more than 10 gold coins is considered a big order in the store. Gauda carefully took out the purse from his pocket, counted out 13 gold coins and paid them to the clerk. Chapter 53. Small Progress. Medicine Garden, inside Jayad's workshop. Goddard carefully opened the box, took out a small bottle of basic magic potion, and held it in his hand. What a luxury! He couldn't help but sigh again. The price of this small bottle of medicine is enough to cover the expenses of 8 people in the medicine garden for nearly 10 days. And he could consume a small bottle in 2 days while practicing the guidance method. The money had been spent, so Gauda no longer hesitated and gently pulled out the cork. A strange smell of medicinal liquid spread out, but it was not unpleasant. Gollum! Goddard raised his head and drank the bottle of basic magic potion in one gulp. After making sure there was not a drop left, he put the empty bottle back into the box. Rinse it and the medicine can be recycled later, so don't waste it. Don't let me down with such an expensive price. Gauda muttered something to himself, and then quickly entered into a state of meditation necessary for practicing the guidance method. As soon as he entered a meditative state, Gauda felt the difference. A warm current was flowing continuously from his abdomen. It was an endless stream of magic power. Under normal circumstances, magic power floats in the outside world, and he needs to use the guidance method to guide it into his body and then convert it into his own magic power. But now, the magic power is gathered in his abdomen, so why does he need to guide it into his body from the outside? Gauda had never seen such a good thing before, so he immediately practiced the guiding technique eagerly, greedily absorbing the magic power gathered in his lower abdomen and converting it into his own magic power. Feeling the magic power in his body becoming more and more abundant, Gauda, who was in a state of meditation, couldn't help but smile. Not until the depletion of his mental strength reached a critical point did Gauda wake up from his meditation and stop practicing the guidance method. It's true that you get what you pay for. The progress I've made in this practice is equivalent to 5 or 6 times in the past. Gauda carefully felt the growth of his magic power and sighed sincerely. If I continue to drink basic magic potions to assist in my practice of the guidance method, my magic power will be able to reach a higher level in 3 days. It took the predecessor 2 years to practice the guidance method and meditation technique to the level of 5 tricks and 5 petals of the lotus respectively. This is based on the premise that his cultivation talent is already outstanding compared to other apprentices in the medicine garden. In fact, not only the apprentices, but even Master Sada's mage talent is far inferior to Gauda. With the occasional consumption of basic magic potions, Master Sada did not reach the 3rd class apprenticeship until he was 35 years old. In fact, even if the scope is expanded to all mages, the predecessor's mage talents should be ranked in the middle and lower positions. Even so, it took him an average of 144 days, or 5 months, to break through one small level. If calculated based on this practice efficiency, if Gauda's predecessor wanted to practice the guidance method from entry level to 3rd level apprentice, 20 tricks, without slacking off for a single day, it would only take 2,880 days, or 8 years. Of course, spiritual practice cannot be simply accumulated and calculated like this. The reason why mage apprentices are divided into 3 grades, 1 to 3, is that with each grade increase, the time required to increase one small level of mana also increases by one level. To put it simply, improving from 60 points to 70 points and improving from 70 points to 80 points, although both are increases of 10 points, the effort and energy required are definitely different. Normally, the time required for the same person to increase one level of mana in the second level apprentice stage is 1.5 times that of the first level apprentice stage. From a second class apprentice to a third class apprentice, the magic power needs to be increased by 15 small levels. One small level is 144 days multiplied by 1.5, which is 216 days. Gauda calculated in his mind. If you want to reach the third level apprentice level, then you have to. Gao Delu calculated in his mind and came up with the answer, 3,240 days. It's exactly 9 years. Including the previous 2 years, it has been 11 years. As for those with more average wizard talent, it would take more than 20 years to train to become a third-class apprentice. No, that can't be calculated that way. With the breakthrough of meditation and the growth of mental strength, the time you can practice the guidance method in a day will also increase, and the efficiency of absorbing magic power will also increase. This is equivalent to the fact that the speed of practicing the guidance technique will continue to increase with the breakthrough of the meditation technique. With this layer added, AMAP can no longer perform accurate calculations. But it is good to know that the total time required will be much less than 9 years. Let's estimate it to be 7 years. After 7 years, he will only be 20. At the age of 20, he can reach the third level apprentice. You can also drink basic magic potions to speed up your practice. After drinking basic magic potions, you will be stronger every day than 5 days. A set of 3 small bottles of basic magic potion can last me 6 days of training, but this is because I am still a first-class apprentice. Once I reach the second-class apprentice, I will need to consume a small bottle of magic potion a day. If you drink basic magic potions throughout the whole process. After a quick calculation, Gauda came up with the answer again, it takes 43.2 days to advance one level. The next level will be reached very soon. If we ignore the deductions, there are still 14 levels left. He calculated for a moment. 604.8 days, 1.68 years. That's right, if he persists in taking drugs, in no more than 2 years, he can reach the third-class apprentice, the same level as Master Seda. This is the charm of taking drugs. A set of basic magic potions costs 6 gold and 10 silver. Based on the consumption rate of a second-class apprentice, it will take about 201 sets of basic magic potions, which is 1,306 gold. Gauda spread his hands and said forget it. Not really. It's better to be down to earth. This medicine can only be taken occasionally. He became honest and no longer had any wishful thinking. Just Gauda frowned again and thought of a key issue. After only 2 months in this world, his meditation technique had already broken through from 5 lotus petals to 7 lotus petals. Without the aid of the potion, my progress in meditation will soon be far behind my progress in channeling. But if I want to drink basic magic potions for a long time, the cost is definitely not something I can afford. The contradiction between the two is irreconcilable. A penny can make a hero fail, but it can never defeat a man of virtue. But if it's 1,306 gold, both Jayad can be stumped. It would be great if I could get the recipe for the basic magic potion. Goder murmured. Primary spider venom potion, if all the raw materials are purchased, the material cost of a set of potion is 30 silver. If you have your own medicine garden and cultivate the raw materials needed for medicine making yourself, the material cost can be reduced by more than half. Phil's potion shop offers the potion master a purchase price of 2 gold per set. When the primary spider poison potion is transferred from the hands of the alchemist to the pharmacy, its selling price will increase to 2 gold and 10 silver. According to this rough estimate, if Jayad can mix the basic magic potion by himself, the cost of a set of basic magic potion can be reduced from the current 6 gold and 10 silver to about 3 gold, or even lower. But this is almost impossible. The recipe for basic magic potion would never appear on the market. This is not for sale to any potion master. After drinking the basic magic potion, the speed of practicing Jayad's guidance method finally caught up with the meditation technique and began to advance rapidly. Just as he expected, 3 days later, on the 13th day of the green bud month, the guidance method that had been progressing as slowly as an old ox pulling a cart, making Gauda anxious, finally made a breakthrough. As the magic power from the potion in his lower abdomen was absorbed by him and transformed into his own magic power, it gradually merged with his own magic power and became huge. Suddenly, his whole body trembled slightly, and the flow of his magic power suddenly increased by 20%. Gowda knew what was going on and breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, I have made a breakthrough. Now I have enough mana to perform 6 tricks. If he could practice the guiding method to perfection, the magic power he would gain would be enough for him to perform 20 magic tricks in one breath. Although the guidance method does not have a clear division of realms, it is only roughly divided into first to third level apprentices. However, based on the number of spells he can cast in one breath with his current mana, Jayad can also estimate his own progress. Chapter 54. Primary Stamina Potion. Still the same old price, 2 gold coins for a spell formula, is that okay? God and Yam were bargaining in Pierre's grocery store. After reaching a deal with God, Pierre quickly helped contact Yam, who had sold the spell formula to God. And Yam was indeed interested in the trade of spell formulas, and after being contacted by Pierre, he nodded and agreed without thinking. This was completely within Jayad's expectations. In his opinion, the private trading of spell formulas was a forbidden act, which could only happen for the first time and the countless times. After all, spell formulas can be copied infinitely with almost no cost, yet can be sold at high prices. This is fast money, faster than gambling. The reason why most people don't dare to make this money is because it is prohibited and the risk is extremely high. But once you have tasted the sweetness, it is difficult to quit. Last time I sold it in packages of 3, and I was particularly short of money at that time, so I gave it to you at this price. This time, Yam wanted to raise the price. Forget it. It's too expensive and not worth it. I haven't digested the 3 spell formulas from last time. I can't chew too much. Gowda pretended to give up the deal. Hey, hey! Can you give me a little more? Yam hurriedly called out to God, saying helplessly. At this price, I can't increase it even a little bit. Gowda has always been a principled person who sticks to his bottom line, and kindly reminded, don't say it's 2 golds, even if it's 2 silvers, you will make a profit. Okay, okay. Seeing that he couldn't get any more money from Godar, Yam had no choice but to give in. In fact, Jayad is in great need of these 2 spell recipes. And after the last transaction, the credibility of the spell formula in Yam's hand was also verified. Therefore, if Yam dares to insist on the price, even if he sells it at the official price of 6 gold pieces, Jayad will grit his teeth and accept it. But unfortunately, Yam didn't know. So he could only be controlled by Jayad instead. After the price was agreed upon, Jayad reluctantly took out 4 gold coins from his pocket and handed them to Yam. The spell formulas for reading magic and blade protection are here. After leaving Pierre's grocery store, Jayad went to the herb garden in the city that specialized in selling medicinal seedlings and spent 8 gold to buy a batch of medicinal seedlings. After some bargaining, in addition to door-to-door delivery, the store also gave me enough fertilizer for half a month's use. It has to be said that in the area of bargaining, Jayad is quite insightful. In fact, medicinal herbs themselves can produce seeds, and it is not impossible for the seeds to germinate if you collect them directly for cultivation. The problem is that the medicinal properties of herbs grown from these seeds are much inferior to those of medicinal seedlings specially cultivated by herbalists. If you use these inferior herbs to mix potions, the resulting potions will also be inferior. Although herbology is not as advanced as potions, the breadth of knowledge involved should not be underestimated. The medicinal properties of medicinal seedlings cultivated by herbalists who have mastered the knowledge of cultivating medicinal seedlings are much higher than those of naturally grown medicinal seedlings. Guillermo Ramos brought in a large pot of freshly stewed broth. The residual heat made the soup still make a bubbling sound. This is the broth that I cooked according to your suggestion. Ramos seemed very reserved. He killed Island and Master Seda with his own hands. Even though Jayad was young, he had established his own authority in the medicine garden. Thanks. Goddard didn't care. He waved his hand, said thank you casually, and let Ramos leave. After Ramos left, Goddard washed his hands first, and then couldn't wait to lift the lid on the wooden basin to keep it warm. The milky white broth hits you with a rich aroma. The main ingredients are tender peas and fresh meat, each piece of meat is the size of a baby's fist. Garnished with potatoes and onions, a piece of fragrant wheat bread is soaked in it, absorbing the aroma and heat of the gravy, becoming softer and more fragrant. A large pot full of stew. Gowda couldn't help swallowing his saliva, and quickly picked up a pair of chopsticks to pick up a piece of potato and put it into his mouth. He was never used to using a knife and fork, so he made a pair of chopsticks as tableware after becoming the owner of the medicine garden. The unique taste of the potato mixed with the rich aroma of the gravy instantly filled Gauda's mouth. It's so fragrant. After taking this bite, my whole stomach felt warm. Gauda picked up another piece of meat. The meat, which had been stewed till soft, almost melted in his mouth, and the aroma of the meat burst out instantly. His hunger was completely aroused and his saliva began to secrete crazily. Not caring about the heat, he picked up the wheat bread soaked in gravy and wolfed down the pea and meat soup. After finishing the whole pot of meat and side dishes, he picked up the entire pot and drank up all the rich broth. It was a great enjoyment. Gauda put down the basin and touched his stomach with satisfaction. As he continued to exercise and his meals became richer, his body became stronger and stronger, and his appetite became better and better. His originally thin body has gradually become stronger, his complexion has become rosy, and his eyes have become more bright and energetic. This further proves the correctness of exercising. The biggest gain is that Jayad discovered that as his physical fitness improved, his energy also improved, which is beneficial both for spiritual practice and medicine making. This was a hidden benefit that he had not thought of beforehand. Sure enough, good physical fitness is the foundation of everything. After returning to the workshop, Gauda first tidied up the messy desk. This was the remnant of his attempt to mix a primary endurance potion in the afternoon. When Jayad thought of the primary endurance potion, he couldn't help but feel worried. The three main ingredients required for the primary endurance potion, alpine ironwood root, scorching sun fruit core, and wild wolf gland fluid. The medicine garden can produce the first two types by itself, and only the last wolf gland fluid needs to be purchased from outside. Due to the increase in hunting activities in Hogan City during this period, the price of wolf gland fluid has dropped by nearly 8% compared to the past, from 6 silver per portion to silver per portion today. Jayad knew that now was the best time to practice mixing elementary endurance potions, so he made a prompt decision and started trying. He spent 6 gold and bought 20 bottles of wolf gland fluid in one go, hoping to master the primary endurance potion in one fell swoop. But the results were not satisfactory. During this period, he tried to prepare the primary endurance potion 6 or 7 times, but was still far from successful. At best, only half the work is done. Not even a bottle of primary endurance potion was produced, and I didn't see any profit, but I had already spent 2 gold on purchasing raw materials. Moreover, this negative benefit will continue for quite a long time. Judging from the situation, he will definitely not be able to master the primary endurance potion within 20 times. Although he felt pain in his heart, Gauda had no choice but to grit his teeth and continue. If you want to master a new potion, initial investment is absolutely inevitable. There's nothing we can do about it. It seems that I really have to thank Master Seda for his ability to judge people. After personally experiencing the difficulty of pharmaceutical manufacturing and the huge initial investment required, Jayad felt a little emotional. The predecessor was able to master the basic spider poison potion. In addition to his own talent in alchemy, Master Seda's willingness to give was also a crucial factor. At least he was willing to provide valuable medicinal herbs to Jayad for practice. If there had been no unavoidable drug testing, Master Seda, who would have taken us beggars back to the medicine garden, provided us with food and shelter, and taught us cultivation methods and alchemy knowledge, could honestly be considered a great benefactor to the apprentices. Unfortunately, there is no such thing. Chapter 55, Deciphering the Scroll. Gauda shook his head and put these random thoughts behind him. He reached out and fumbled, taking the box of basic magic potion from the side of the wooden table. Open the box. It's almost used up. Gauda looked at the 3 medicine bottles neatly placed in the box. Only one bottle was left intact, and the other 2 bottles were empty. He took out the last bottle of basic magic potion. Looking at the crystal liquid in the bottle, Gauda couldn't help but sigh, this thing is as addictive as drugs. The amazing training efficiency after taking the basic magic potion is addictive. After getting used to the feeling of efficient and enjoyable practice after drinking magic potions, once you stop drinking magic potions, the practice method you were already accustomed to becomes slow and stuck, and it becomes uncomfortable no matter how you practice. It is difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. He gently pulled out the cork and drank the bottle of basic magic potion in one gulp. After making sure there was not a drop left, Gauda began his practice for today. After finishing the Nanfa style practice of 1 section is stronger than 6 sections, Gauda did not get up immediately, but started to construct the spell model. 2 days had passed since he purchased 2 new spell recipes. In the past 2 days, he has been constructing the spell model of reading magic, but his luck has not been very good and he has not succeeded for 2 consecutive days. If I can really complete the recipe for the spiritual potion, with the help of the magic potion, I can master any trick within a day. Gauda muttered to himself. I failed these past 2 days, and several times I was just missing the last bit. If my mental control was a little stronger, I would have succeeded. However, no matter how many setbacks there are, I should be able to master the reading magic within 1 or 2 days. Thinking of this, Gauda has begun to calm down and once again started trying to construct a spell model in the sea of spells. Half an hour later, Gauda suddenly opened his eyes, with a hint of joy in his eyes. He was silent. Wind Spirit Moon Shadow. Suddenly, a simple information interface appeared in Jayad's consciousness. In the spell column, there is a new entry after Detect Magic, Read Magic. Reading Magic, Prophecy, 0 level, you can decipher magical writings on items, books, scrolls, weapons, and so on, that are otherwise indecipherable. Such deciphering usually does not release the magic contained in the writings. Furthermore, once this spell has been cast and a magical text has been deciphered, the same text can be deciphered thereafter without resorting to reading magic again. Finally succeeded! Gauda exclaimed. He suppressed his excitement and anxiety, opened his cabinet, took out the scroll left by Master Seda, and spread it out on the table. The scroll is covered with obscure magical texts. The time and energy required to learn a language is unimaginable. In previous lives, it often took many years to become proficient in a foreign language. Fortunately, in this world, there exists an inexplicable supernatural power called magic. Gauda's mind moved slightly, and the magic power in his body flowed. On the spell model of reading magic that had just been constructed in the sea of spells, a star track flashed by. His eyes suddenly lit up, and an invisible magical wave surged in them. Goddard gently ran his finger across the magic words on the scroll, while his eyes focused on following the movement of his finger. At this moment, language is no longer an obstacle. The originally obscure magic words still looked like ghostly symbols in Gauda's eyes, but the meaning behind each word was revealed one by one in his mind. Seers School of Magic. I write this letter as the 10th Dean of the Seers School of Magic. The purpose is to recommend those who have this letter, regardless of their background, age, or previous experience, to enjoy the highest honor and privilege of directly entering our school to study, without having to go through any form of entrance examination. These exceptions are very rare and are reserved only at very rare moments in the history of the college for individuals and families who have demonstrated extraordinary potential, or who have made significant contributions or potential value to the principality and the college. The bearer, although not specifically named here, has been confirmed by me and is granted this supreme recommendation. I firmly believe that the Seers School of Magic, as the most outstanding school of magic in the principality, has the ability and responsibility to open the door to knowledge and power for those who hold the faith. No matter in which year this letter is received, the school council is requested to accept this recommendation and give the holder of this letter the most distinguished reception and support, and arrange for him to study directly under a senior tutor who is suitable for his talents and ambitions. May the light of magic guide the way, and may wisdom and courage always accompany the name of Ceres. Gavin Hogg official seal. This is. Gauda was stunned. The true identity of the scroll was completely beyond his expectations. Before the interpretation, Gauda had many speculations about the scroll. It could be some ancient secret, or information about a treasure, or some kind of magic potion or prescription. I never thought it would be a letter of recommendation. No, it should not be called a recommendation letter. A recommendation letter means recommendation. Judging from the content of the text, it is more than just recommendation. Isn't this the qualification for guaranteed postgraduate study? Goddard murmured. He's familiar with this. Regardless of origin, age, or previous experience, it is even the highest level qualification for guaranteed admission to graduate school. I just don't know what level of magic academy the Seers School of Magic is, where is it located, and whether it still exists. Gauda pondered. To be honest, he was moved for a moment. Having received education in his previous life, Gauda knew very well how important systematic basic learning was. This is equivalent to the foundation of a towering building. The master leads the door, and the practice depends on the individual. True achievement cannot be taught, but leading people into the door is extremely important. After just a moment of careful thought, Gauda immediately faced the reality. He had never heard of the name Seer's School of Magic before, which proved that this school of magic either no longer existed or was located far away from Hogon City. As for the former, there is nothing much to say. If it was the latter, given the current situation, Gauda would not abandon the medicine garden and leave Hogon City just for the admission qualification. First, he currently does not have the ability to travel long distances. Second, it is irrational to abandon a relatively healthy industry just for a so-called recommendation letter for exemption from examination. Although the letter said please ask the school council to accept this recommendation no matter what year this letter is received, it is well known that the golden medal of immunity from death can be smashed and you can just kowtow in front of the ancestral spirits. Whether this kind of oath-like thing works or not depends entirely on luck. The expected investment is not proportional to the expected return. At least for now, this recommendation letter for exemption from examination is not of much value to Jayad. Gauda was a little disappointed, but he still put it away carefully. Maybe it will be useful in the future. After all, the scroll clearly states that regardless of their background, age, or previous experience, all students will enjoy the supreme honor and privilege of directly entering this school to study. Find a chance to ask Pierre. He might know about the Seer's School of Magic. After all, it was left by Master Seda. I think it is most likely the Magic Academy of the Principality of Shan. God said secretly. The area of the Principality of Shan is already large enough, and God doesn't quite believe that Master Seda would hold a letter of recommendation for exemption from examination from a magic academy in another country. However, if the Seer's School of Magic is really the School of Magic of the Principality of Shan, why didn't Master Seda use this letter of recommendation? But under this speculation, new doubts emerged, leaving Jayad puzzled. Chapter 56, Strange Things in the City. Gauda's life as the owner of the medicine garden finally began to become busy. The trial of the primary endurance potion will continue for some time. The spell model of blade protection was successfully constructed 2 days after mastering reading magic. At this point, the number of spells in his spell library expanded to 12. In addition, during this period he and the apprentices in the medicine garden planted the batch of medicinal seedlings that had just been purchased. Anyone who has been a farmer knows that the early stages of planting any crop are the most troublesome and require careful care. The same is true for medicinal herb cultivation. Preparation of nutrient soil before planting, soil thinning, planting, fertilization and watering. After a series of work, everyone was very busy. However, looking at the young medicinal seedlings growing vigorously in the medicine field, Gauda still felt a sense of satisfaction in his heart. These medicinal seedlings will eventually turn into golden Shan coins and enter his pocket. It was not until the 22nd day of the green leaf month that the second set of basic magic potions was declared exhausted, and Jayad finally found time to temporarily end his farmer life. Rose Potion Shop. Do you have basic magic potions for sale? Like the Phantom Potion Shop, they did not put basic magic potions on the counter. Goddard asked the clerk directly. This time he went to a different potion shop. One is that he was afraid that frequently buying basic magic potions in the same potion shop would attract the attention of someone with ulterior motives. The second is to ensure that you won't be ripped off by the Phantom Potion Shop, although the possibility is very low. It turned out that the clerk at the Dusk Potion Shop did not lie to him. In the Rose Potion Shop, the price of a set of basic magic potions is also 6 gold and 10 silver. After a brief thought, Gauda directly bought 6 sets, spending 39 gold. If you only buy 1 or 2 sets, you will have to go to the potion shop every few days, which is not only troublesome but also a waste of time. But after this huge expenditure, the cash he had was reduced again to 24 gold. Spend money like water. It is said that the poor are good at literature and the rich are good at martial arts, but compared with the magician, it seems just like that. After taking the 6 sets of basic magic potions packed by the clerk, Goddard noticed a team of city guards walking hurriedly on the street outside the door. This scene was not the first time Gauda had seen it. When he came over, he saw several teams of city guards patrolling with serious expressions. In the past, the city guards would not be so diligent. Did something big happen in the city? Why are the city guards making such a big fuss today? Gauda asked casually. Sir, don't you know? Something strange has happened in the city these days. The clerk showed a surprised expression when he heard it. Ah! Gauda frowned and asked, what's strange? Many people in the city have mysteriously disappeared in the past few days. After leaving the Rose Potion Shop, Godar's brows were still furrowed and he was full of worries. Although Hogan City is not as big as the cities with a population of millions in the previous life, due to the overall environment, population disappearance is not a strange thing at all. It shouldn't cause any big waves. There are only two possibilities that could make the city guards so concerned. One is that a person of noble status has gone missing, and the other is that the number of missing people has reached a certain threshold. Whether it is the former or the latter, it is a terrible thing. As he thought about this, God turned and came to Pierre's grocery store again. When you are in doubt, go to Pierre. This old man is so mysterious, and his shop is located in the commercial district in the center of Hogan City, with people coming and going all day long. If Gouda didn't know some inside story, he wouldn't believe it. But these are all secondary reasons. The main reason is that Pierre is his only connection in this world so far. Inside the grocery store, there is a family near the commercial district. For no apparent reason, the entire family disappeared. As expected, Pierre was well informed and knew some inside information. It took only one night, and the man went to sleep at home, and disappeared the next day. The daughter of this family is the cousin of the captain of the city guard's wife, which is why this matter has not been suppressed. It would have been better if I hadn't checked. Once I checked, I found something was wrong. When he said this, Pierre's voice gradually became softer. Gouda quickly moved closer. What do you mean? It's not just a few families. Over the past half-month, dozens of people from more than a dozen families have disappeared without a trace as soon as the sun rose while they were sleeping at home. It's just that the people who disappeared before were all from the civilian area, so no one paid attention to it. The city guards went to the scene to investigate. They found nothing except some mucus of unknown origin. Whether it's the identity of the murderer or the missing people, whether they are dead or alive, or how they disappeared, there is not a single clue. When he said this, Pierre's expression became serious. I don't know if anyone else will go missing tonight. If so, this will be a big deal. Goder nodded in agreement. The city guards have made such a big move today, clearly showing an attitude of strict investigation. If someone still goes missing tonight, it would be a slap in the face of the city guards. The fact that he dared to hit the city guard in the face like this not only proves how audacious the murderer is, but also shows how fearless he is. That depends on what happens tonight, said Gouda. If nothing happens tonight, at least everyone can feel a little more at ease. Oh, by the way, boss, have you ever heard of the series School of Magic? Since he was already here, Gouda just asked casually. How could I not have heard of it? Pierre did not take God's question seriously and said casually, this is the Royal School of Magic of our country. Royal School of Magic? Yes, although there is only one magic academy in our country, Pierre nodded, and inadvertently revealed another piece of information to God. If you can enter and study there, it will be a step to heaven. It's just a magic academy, is it really that exaggerated? Gouda doubted. That's for sure, Pierre said confidently. In addition to the royal family and the children of Shan nobles, the Ceres School of Magic only recruits students once a year. Although anyone can apply for this external recruitment, and there are many applicants, the enrollment requirements of the Ceres School of Magic are extremely strict. Without excellent magic talent, it is impossible to be admitted. Every time we recruit students, if we can get 30 to 40 people who pass the assessment, that's a lot. In most years, only 10 to 20 people will pass the assessment and enter the Ceres School of Magic. And 99% of those who pass the assessment and enter the Ceres School of Magic become second-ring mages. Entering the Ceres School of Magic is equivalent to taking one step into the realm of a second-ring wizard. Don't you think this is not a step toward heaven? Pierre asked. Gouda could only nod silently when he heard this. In Hogan City, first-ring mages are rare, let alone second-ring mages. They are absolutely the best among people. Then it is located in the royal capital. Gouda hesitated. Of course, where else can the Royal School of Magic be located if not in the capital? Pierre became interested and said a few more words. This school was established at the same time as the capital Saint Shan City, and it has a history of thousands of years. How far is it from Hogan City to Saint Shan City? Goder asked unwillingly. That's far, probably thousands of kilometers, Pierre sighed, then shook his head. Even I haven't been to Saint Shan City. As a citizen of the Principality of Shan, it's a great pity that I can't see the capital of my country. Chapter 57. Hound Tracking. Although the title of Royal School of Magic made God feel impulsive for a moment, the distance of thousands of kilometers made him calm down quickly. Not to mention thousands of kilometers, even the city of Bremen, which is 200 kilometers away from Hogan City, is a city that is difficult to reach for God at the moment. This is not his previous life, where there were convenient means of transportation such as high-speed rail and airplanes. Outside the city, the vast undeveloped and uninhabited forests are full of dangers. With mixed feelings, Gauda left the commercial district and returned to the medicine garden. The news he heard today still made him feel uneasy. Although there have been cases of people disappearing in commercial and civilian areas before, who can guarantee this? Maybe the next time it will happen in the slums, rich areas or suburbs. The rich people in the city also had this concern, so they put a certain amount of pressure on the city guards, which made the city guards so concerned. I have to arrange for people to take turns to keep watch. Although if the murderer really shows up, the apprentice's mediocre skills in the medicine garden will be of no use, but at least it can give me some psychological comfort. Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep if this goes on. Gauda said to himself. I just want to live a peaceful life, grow crops, sell medicine, and develop well. Is it so difficult? At the same time, he felt a little helpless. Gauda thought he was already quite obedient and honest. Even if I occasionally have some impulsive thoughts, I suppress them all and never do anything risky. But even though he doesn't look for trouble, trouble will not stop happening. I hope the city guards can play a role and catch the murderer as soon as possible. Gauda thought. The worst-case scenario that we expected still happened. Last night, despite the increased patrols by the city guards and the city-wide martial law, 9 people from 2 families still inexplicably disappeared from their homes. As before, nothing was found at the scene except some mucus of unknown origin. It is said that the rich people in the city united this morning to put pressure on the city guards. In the grocery store, Pierre said with a serious expression to God, who came early in the morning to inquire about the news. He looked worried. Who wouldn't be scared by this? It seems that the old man is also unsure. It's no surprise that people are always full of fear of unknown things. Putting pressure on the city guards is just a cover. The real purpose is to put pressure on the city lord. Gauda saw through the clue at a glance. Obviously, the city guards can't solve this kind of problem. We must ask the wizard in the city to leave. If Master Mage takes action, this matter should be solved soon, right? This kind of strange matter can only be solved by a mage who possesses extraordinary powers. I think so. Pierre hesitated for a moment, but still nodded. He still had certain expectations for the magicians in Hogan City. Like God, he hopes that Hogan City will be peaceful and nothing unusual will happen. Hogan City, City Meeting House. Inside the circular room, 8 or 9 city leaders were sitting around a conference table made of dark wood. They wore colorful robes embroidered with family crests and had expressionless faces, making it impossible to tell what they were thinking. The supreme leader of Hogan City, Viscount Charles, sat on the main throne with a frown on his face. The people on the field together represent the highest authority in the entire Hogan City. No one, including Viscount Charles, said anything. Malin is the captain of the Hogan City Guard. He is a sturdy middle-aged man wearing a well-fitting uniform. He looks extremely energetic and oppressive. Seeing that no one spoke, he pulled his face and broke the silence. My Lord Viscount, I have already sent all the city guards to stand guard last night. They were busy all night and were not lazy or negligent. However, the disappearance still happened silently under our inspection. This matter is no longer something that the city guards can handle. We need to ask the Master Mage to take action. The others present still did not speak, as if they had made up their minds to remain silent. Viscount Charles, who was sitting on the main seat, frowned and sighed. I thought it was just a small matter, but it turned out to be a big deal. If this matter is not resolved, everyone in the city will be in danger, and the merchants will also be very dissatisfied. This Hogan City is our Hogan City after all. If you have any ideas, please express your opinions. Now that Viscount Charles had spoken in this way, it was naturally difficult for the others to remain silent. I suspect it was done by the underground creatures. The old man sitting on the right side of Viscount Charles spoke first. He is the Deputy Lord of Hogan City, Master Kingdi. According to the regulations of the Principality of Shan, the highest leader of each city is a noble with the title of the Principality, that is, the local city lord. On this basis, a deputy city lord with the identity of mage must be equipped. This is a hard and fast rule. Only in this way can we ensure that the city has a certain ability to resist possible natural disasters and man-made disasters. Even in a small city like Hogan City, the deputy city lord, Master Kingdi, is a second-ring mage. Master Kingdi, what do you think? Viscount Charles asked to confirm. This doesn't seem to be a man-made move. Why would a man-made move go to such great lengths just for a few families? According to what you said, only the people are missing, but their property is still there. Master Kingdi said calmly. Could it be that some wizards were researching forbidden necromancy spells and did not take any property in order to confuse the public? Someone made a guess. This kind of thing has happened before. Then he will be even less likely to commit a crime in defiance of the law. Viscount Charles denied this possibility. Researching the forbidden necromancy spells is a great crime, and it is done secretly, so how could it be so publicized? But if it was done by underground creatures, where did these underground creatures come from and where did they go? Viscount Charles frowned. He had thought about the possibility of underground creatures, but there had never been a reasonable explanation for this. The slums are not so bad, as they are located on the fringe of the city. It is not uncommon for some roaming earth creatures to break through the blockade of the city walls and enter the slums to commit crimes. But the family that disappeared 2 days ago was clearly located in a civilian area, in the sub-center of Hogon City. If it was really done by the underground creatures, how did it or they pass through the outskirts of the city and enter the civilian area without being seen? How could he leave quietly, or where is he hiding in the city now? The city guards have been patrolling the city these days and have not found anything unusual. The ground vein creatures have many abilities. The frequency and number of ground vein creatures appearing outside the city have been increasing during this period. It is not difficult to understand the appearance of ground vein creatures with hidden abilities. Master Kingdi knew what was going on and said slowly. What does Master Kingdi mean? Seeing that Master Kingdi seemed to have a comprehensive plan and arrangement, Viscount Charles hurriedly asked humbly. Didn't they say there was some mucus left at the scene? Master Kingdi said directly, if nothing unexpected happens, this mucus should be left by the murderer. All we need is a hound tracking spell to track the murderer based on the slime. Then I'll trouble Master Kingdi to help. Unexpectedly, Master Kingdi shook his head and said, I don't have the hound tracking yet. I need you, Viscount, to go to Bremen and buy a spell scroll. Hound tracking is only a second-level spell, and the corresponding spell scroll is only 30 gold. Money is a small matter. Finding the murderer as soon as possible and settling the matter down are the important matters. Viscount Charles immediately slammed the table and said. 30 gold is really nothing for a Viscount. I'll send someone to Bremen right away. Chapter 58. A visit. The case of missing persons in Hogon City was finally resolved. The murderer was a wizard apprentice who was wanted for mastering forbidden spells and fled to Hogon City. After fleeing to Hogon City, he did not know how to restrain himself and continued to plunder the local people of Hogon City just to continue studying his forbidden spells. According to the information Pierre obtained, it was the city's master wizard who personally took action and captured the murderer on the spot when he was committing the crime. The news that the murderer had been caught quickly spread after deliberate publicity. The uneasy situation in Hogon City was brought under control. This made Gao Dichang breathe a sigh of relief. The strange thing was solved, and he could finally continue to farm in peace. Farming and development is the way to go. After 30 days of green leaves, the flowers bloom like flames. The green leaf month is fleeting. Flowery moon, day 2. Seda Medicinal Garden. In the workroom. The table was filled with all kinds of miscellaneous items. Various failed waste liquids of primary endurance potions were arranged at once, filling up most of the table. Gauda buried his head in recording, writing down the process and reasons of the last failure on paper. As a nerd who has received modern education, his comprehensive abilities such as logical thinking and analytical thinking are superior to most people in this world. And he has always had the good habit of summarizing and generalizing. The 4 words induction and conclusion seem simple, but in fact, not many people can do this, let alone in this world, even in previous lives. Countless people make the same mistake they made last time when they are studying or working, and they make the same mistake again the next time they encounter the same problem. Commonly known as a short memory. In short, AMAP records and analyzes the process and reasons of each of its pharmaceutical failures in detail. And before trying to mix a potion next time, I will go over it in my mind in advance. This allowed him to maintain steady progress and always stay on the right path, even though he had no famous teacher to teach him and could only rely on the potion formula to figure it out, stumbling along the way. In addition to the talent for potions inherited from his predecessor, through constant experimentation, he was getting closer and closer to mixing his first primary endurance potion. This time we will try to win it in one fell swoop. Gowda went through his previous notes again, and after making sure that he had memorized all the points that could easily lead to failure, he decided to make one last attempt for the day. He concentrated on taking the 3 main ingredients needed for the primary endurance potion and put them into wooden bowls. The first step is the magic step. The roots of the high mountain ironwood are used for their drought resistance and cold resistance properties, while the sunberry is used for its strong properties. Place the enchanted fiery eye fruit core in a mortar, add appropriate amount of spring water, and grind in a clockwise direction. During the grinding process, add appropriate amount of wild wolf gland fluid to neutralize its strong medicinal properties, but make sure that the strong medicine is not too low. Many previous failures were caused by this. The mixture has a light golden color. This time it was done in one go. As the last auxiliary ingredient was added to the medicine, a magical light flashed by and then quickly dimmed. Success! As the magic flashed, Gowda's tense spirit suddenly relaxed, and then he showed a satisfied smile. It finally happened. Successfully prepared a primary endurance potion for the first time. Although the aura is not bright enough, it is just a matter of proficiency. The first breakthrough has been completed, and what remains is just simple and boring practice to improve proficiency. Level 0 potion, it's not that difficult. Gowda couldn't help but sigh. He came into this world on the 2nd day of the awakening month, February, in the year 9655 of the Nolan calendar. Today is the 2nd day of the flower flame month, May, 9655. Exactly 3 full months, 90 days, have passed. However, in just 3 months, the number of spells mastered by God has expanded from 2 at the beginning to 12 now. I guess Master Seda is no more than that. In the field of alchemy, he also mastered the 2 best-selling potions in Seda Medicine Garden. Except that his mage realm is not as good as Master Seda, Jayad has caught up with him in other aspects. When he thought of this, Gowda felt a sense of satisfaction. The Seda mage, who was still high and mighty for him 3 months ago, now seemed not so out of reach. Be careful not to be arrogant or impatient. Be careful not to be arrogant or impatient. Gowda reminded himself. After all, he also knew that Master Seda, whom he regarded as the big boss, was, after all, just a mage apprentice. Yes, an apprentice. Not even a mage at all. This is even more true for him now. He hasn't even stepped into the door to the world of mages. Gowda was cautious, but the summer breeze was a little bit restless and blew in through the window. There was a hurried knock on the studio door, and at his consent, Amy pushed the door open with a nervous look on her face. God, someone is looking for you outside. Gowda's expression changed slightly. Who? How many people? I don't know who they are, but there are 5 or 6 of them, waiting outside the medicine garden. I see. I'll go out and take a look. Gowda frowned. He really couldn't think of who would come to him. Looking for him, it's unlikely. The only person he knows in Hogan City is Pierre. Looking for Master Seda? Less likely. Through the family letters left by Master Seda, God has determined that Master Seda has been in seclusion in Hogan City for the past 10 years, concentrating on studying psychic potions and has not had any social activities. He originally came to Hogan City to escape and had no time to hide his identity, let alone reveal his location to his previous acquaintances. If it wasn't him or Master Seda, who else could come to visit him? While thinking this, Gowda had already walked through the corridor and arrived at the courtyard of the medicine garden. Outside the gate, there were already 5 or 6 figures stationed at the entrance of the medicine garden. Goddard opened the door. Leading the group was a middle-aged man dressed in luxurious attire. Behind him, there were 5 people standing. 4 of them were wearing sackcloth clothes. At first glance, they were obviously thugs. The other one, Gowda, looked familiar. It was Phil's potion shop clerk. Seeing God coming out, the clerk immediately stepped forward and introduced him to God. This is our store manager, Mr. Oliver. I hope you won't mind my sudden visit. Oliver looked at God with a faint smile. Manager, you are too polite. Gowda, who was not sure about the other party's intention, smiled and said in a neither humble nor arrogant manner, it is an honor for the medicine garden to have you visit us. It's just that Master Seda has been out for some time and hasn't returned yet. If you have something to do, why don't you come back another day after Master Seda returns? It seems that Master Seda is not here, so you are in charge of the medicine garden for the time being. Oliver clapped his hands. Since I'm here, it's not in vain. The reason I came to visit you today is just for one thing. Please tell Master Seda when he returns. What's up? Dusk, Rose, and our Phil potion shop have shared the Hogan City potion market for many years. The three of us have competed with each other openly and secretly countless times over the years, and we all want to dominate the market. Oliver said calmly. It's just that the three of us have similar strengths and assets, and we have been checking each other, so we have never been able to reach a conclusion. This Jayad is very familiar. The triangle is the most stable. However, due to the recent changes outside the city, the magic potion market in Hogan City has become more prosperous. This is an opportunity. Our store is ready to seize this opportunity to grow stronger. Oliver narrowed his eyes. The first step to growth is expansion. Our store has been cooperating with your Seda Medicine Garden for nearly 10 years. I also fully recognize the ability of Master Seda. Our store is interested in purchasing your medicine garden and hiring Master Seda as our alchemist. As for the price, we can negotiate. Nothing else, just a lot of money. Goder was silent. He could see that although Oliver was the store manager, he was actually just a senior employee with the real big boss behind him. Chapter 59. Hostile Takeover. Okay, when Master Seda comes back, I will convey your intention to him. Naturally, Gouda was unwilling to sell the medicine garden, especially since Master Seda was no longer around. But the situation was such that he couldn't think of any solution for the moment and could only resort to the tactic of delaying. He had explained before he left that he was going out because he had not yet come up with any results from his research on the potion formula, so he decided to take a break and go back to his hometown to visit his relatives. He didn't know when he would be back. Oliver looked strange when he heard what God said. Gouda noticed the subtle change in the other party's expression. While his heart was slightly tense, he continued as if nothing had happened. I have mastered all of Master Seda's knowledge of potions, so he temporarily handed the medicine garden to me until he comes back. When Oliver heard what God said, his eyes suddenly lit up, but he was a little skeptical. Your Excellency, are you saying that you have mastered all of Master Seda's knowledge of potions? It can be seen that he was reserved about this statement and was half believing and half doubting. After all, Jayad still looks too young. God nodded firmly. Master Seda has taught me both the primary spider venom potion and the primary endurance potion, and I have mastered them all. If that's the case, we would also like to hire you as our store's potion master. Oliver said with a smile. Also, if Master Seda doesn't come back soon, it's not impossible for you to decide some things. Oliver looked at the herb garden pretentiously, stretched out 2 fingers of his right hand, and said, 200 gold coins. I am willing to pay 200 gold coins to buy your herb garden. Hearing this price, Gouda couldn't help but grit his teeth in hatred in his heart. Not to mention anything else, when Master Seda took over this medicine garden, it cost more than 200 gold coins, not to mention the various renovations and construction that followed. Coupled with the 4 carefully cultivated medicinal fields with stable output, it would not be an exaggeration to double the 200 gold coins. The Master Mage only asked me to temporarily manage the medicine garden. How dare I make such a decision on my own? We should wait until Master Seda returns before making a decision. Although he hated it in his heart, Gouda still smiled on the surface. That's true, Oliver said, not taking it seriously. It's just that opportunities are time-limited. I'm very anxious and can't give you too much time. You should think about it carefully. I think even if Master Seda comes back, he will understand your decision. After all, it is a great blessing to be able to join our Phil potion shop. After saying this with a smile, Oliver waved his hand, got into the carriage parked under a tree, and left leisurely. After the smiling tiger sent Oliver and his group away, God cursed in his heart. He just had a moment where he clearly sensed the evil intentions released by Oliver, and then he took the initiative to reveal that he had inherited all the potion knowledge of Master Seda. It is not only to show your own value, but also to stabilize the other party. Only if there is value will the other party think twice before acting. But it is hard to say how long this double thinking can last and how effective it will be. God, what should we do? Amy, who witnessed the whole process, could not be as calm as God. She was already panicking and just pretended to be calm in front of outsiders. Now that Oliver and his group had left, he could no longer hold back and said in panic, Master Seda has. Don't tell anyone else about this for now. Let me think about it. Goddard knew what Amy meant and could only say this. Phil's Potion Shop, 2nd floor. A long table made of mahogany divides the room into 2 spaces. Behind the long table was a dignified man with deep eye sockets, slightly raised brow bones, and a neatly trimmed beard. He was wearing a custom-made robe made of high-quality dark purple fabric, with an emblem of unknown meaning embroidered on the chest. Obviously, this is a person of extremely noble status. Oliver, the owner of the potion shop, was standing respectfully in front of the long table. There was none of the complacent attitude he had during the day at the Seda Medicinal Garden. "My Lord Baron, today I went to the Seda Medicinal Garden and the Iberlin Medicinal Garden on the outskirts of the city. The Iberlin Medicinal Garden has agreed to transfer the garden to me, but the situation at the Seda Medicinal Garden is more complicated." "What do you mean?" asked the man called the Baron. "I went there, but I didn't see their leader, Master Seda." According to the apprentices in the medicine garden, Master Seda had returned to his hometown to visit his relatives. But I suspect that the Seda Master did not actually return to visit his relatives, but had died of old age, but the apprentices in the medicine garden kept the news secret. The Seda Master is already old. The last time he came to the store to get the spiritual bone powder, I was the one who received him. At that time, his complexion was extremely grey and he looked like he was going to die soon. Also, this wizard Seda has been researching his high-level potion for the past 10 years. He has invested countless money and energy in it. He has gone crazy and will not stop until he achieves his goal. How could such a person suddenly stop his research and choose to return home to visit his relatives? Besides, it's hard to say whether an old mage who has lived in seclusion for 10 years has any relatives alive. Who would believe him if he said he was returning to visit his relatives? Besides, he said he was visiting relatives. I sent people to the post station in the city to inquire, but I didn't find any record of the Seda Master renting horses at the post station or the carriage shop. The old wizard is so old. How could he travel far without renting a horse or a carriage? Can he walk? It is most likely, as I said, he has died of old age in the medicine garden. It's just that these apprentices are so bold and fanciful that they want to create the illusion that the old wizard is still alive so that they can continue to manage the old wizard's medicine garden. I have to say, if you hadn't signaled me to start annexing and acquiring the city's medicinal gardens, I really wouldn't have noticed this Seda Medicinal Garden. I almost got it done for them. I went there today to find out what happened. If I can confirm that the old wizard is no longer alive, I can simply fabricate a crime for these apprentices, put them in jail for a while, and directly occupy the ownerless herb garden. A bunch of apprentices who were born as beggars, yet they are at my mercy. Then why didn't you take action? The majestic man sitting behind the long table listened for a long time and finally asked. There was a little accident. There was an apprentice in the medicine garden who claimed that he had inherited all the potion knowledge of the old wizard. That apprentice looks very young, probably around 13 or 14. If what he said is true, I think he has great potential for training, so I'll give up the idea for now and decide to wait and see. This kind of talent should be allowed to join Phil's potion shop and make medicine for us. Given his age and talent in potions, we don't know how much money he can help us make in the future. It would be short-sighted to send him to jail for a little money, so I thought I'd buy their herb garden in a more peaceful way. That's right, the dignified man tapped the table with his knuckles. Get the job done as quickly as possible and don't make any mistakes, otherwise. Don't worry, Baron. I will definitely handle this matter properly. It won't be long before he agrees to transfer the medicine garden to me and become the potion master of this shop. Chapter 60 Pierre's Speculation. Flowery Month, 15th. A bright magical light flashed through the potion. Gouda dully divided the highly successful primary endurance potion into small bottles, without showing any joy at all. After putting the medicine away, Gouda felt a little irritated and couldn't calm down. Ever since Oliver visited them that day, Phil's potion shop no longer purchased the primary spider venom potion produced by their medicine garden. According to what they said, due to the increase in sales of primary spider poison potion during this period, the potion masters in the city who mastered this potion also began to focus on preparing primary spider poison potion. In addition, the potion shop has been purchasing in large quantities, and now the stock of primary spider poison potion in the pharmacy has been saturated, so the purchase has been suspended. Although Gouda was skeptical, he thought the explanation made sense after all, so he just let it go. It just so happened that he had already mastered the preparation of the primary endurance potion, so he simply gave up on the primary spider venom potion and bought 20 portions of wild wolf gland fluid and turned to preparing the primary endurance potion. However, he didn't expect that when he brought the prepared primary endurance potion to Phil's pharmacy, he was still refused to buy it. The reason given this time was that from today onwards, our store will only sell potions made by our own potion makers, and will no longer cooperate with potions makers other than our own. At this point, Jayad clearly understood that all this talk of stockpiling and saturation was nonsense. The essence was to force him to give up the medicine garden, and at the same time to force himself to join their Phil potion shop and prepare potions for them. This is not counting. After this unpleasant parting, Gowda discovered that there were more idle people wandering outside the medicine garden. Seda Medicinal Garden was originally located in the suburbs of Hogan City, with its own gate and courtyard. There are no living facilities or shops nearby. The apprentices in the medicine garden had to travel for more than half an hour to the market and commercial district in the city center to buy food. Under normal circumstances, where would there be idle people wandering around in a place like this? Apparently, these idlers were from Phil's potion shop. The intention is also very obvious, isn't it, just to monitor and intimidate Jayad? This is a combination of coercion and inducement. The thing is, Oliver's methods actually work. Although Jayad still has a certain amount of savings, without the income from magic potions, the medicine garden will go bankrupt sooner or later if it continues to live off its savings. At that time, what else could he do except join Phil's potion shop? As for resistance, how can a first-class wizard apprentice resist? Gowda even secretly felt lucky that he had been more careful and demonstrated his value in time. Otherwise, what he would be facing now would not be coercion or inducement. Just what to do now? The more Gowda thought about it, the more annoyed he became. Should I swallow my anger and sell the medicine garden to them? This seems to be the best decision at the moment. After all, the other party offered a purchase price of 200 gold, and they also valued his potential very much. If he really joins Phil's potion shop will most likely focus on training him. Although there will certainly be many restrictions, with Feng Ling Yuying around, as long as he endures it for a few years, he should be able to get rid of these restrictions. From this perspective, it is indeed a good choice. However, Jayad has never considered this option. It's nothing, I just don't want to suffer this. If your mind is not free, no matter how many other truths you have, they will be of no use. As Gowda pondered, he took out his purse and counted it carefully, and found out his current cash balance, 12 gold, 2 silver and 5 bronze. We have to make a decision soon. The next day, Gowda left the medicine garden with a package. Want to follow? No need. We are just told to take good care of the medicine garden. Seeing Gowda heading towards the city, the two people who were monitoring near the medicine garden glanced at him and then retracted their gaze without any other action. Although they were close to blatant surveillance, at least they did not go so far as to directly follow and track, thus retaining the last bit of dignity. Business District. Pierre's grocery store. Goddard brought the magic potions he had stockpiled for many days, and before he even stepped into the store, he discovered that the content on the simple wooden sign at the door had changed. This store will be closed in the near future, and all items in the store will be sold at a low price. After only being away for a week, Pierre is planning to close down the grocery store. Gowda was stunned, and without caring about the purpose of his trip to sell medicine, he hurried into the store. It can be seen with the naked eye that the shelves in the store are much emptier. Are you leaving? As soon as God entered the store, he saw Pierre drinking tea leisurely behind the counter and asked directly, going to Bremen? Yes, I'm already looking for the next owner of the store. As soon as I find one, I'll leave and go to Bremen to enjoy my retirement. Pierre Niu took a sip of tea, put down the cup and replied. What's going on? Gowda frowned, having a bad feeling in his heart. The strange incident of missing people in the city has not been solved. Pierre first released a message. You mean the murderer is already? Gowda replied subconsciously, and then he reacted with a start, then he is just a scapegoat. Well, he was just a scapegoat. The strange incident of missing people was suppressed instead of being solved. Pierre nodded and gave an affirmative answer. People are still disappearing in the city. He paused. 3 days ago, a family living on the same street as me disappeared inexplicably. The situation was exactly the same as before. The person was sleeping at home, and disappeared the next day when he woke up. This was discovered by his neighbors beforehand, and everyone came over to watch the fun. I also took a look at the scene before the city guards arrived. There was nothing left in the room except some strange slime. And the items in the room were in perfect order. It was definitely not a murder for money. I suspect that this was not caused by humans, but by a kind of earth vein creature that has never appeared in the Bremen area before. That's why even the second ring mage couldn't solve the problem. In the city center, there are underground creatures lurking in the dark and constantly committing crimes. This is terrifying. After a moment's silence, Gauda spoke again. Is that why? Not all of them. The main reason is. Pierre sighed and said, didn't I go to Bremen last month to make arrangements? In addition to this matter, I also checked some information through my friends in the Emerald Alliance. Under normal circumstances, there is an upper limit to the number of leyline creatures that gather in each region based on the different concentrations of magic power. But during this period, the number of earth vein creatures that appeared outside the city has exceeded the total amount that should exist in this area. Do you know what this means? Without waiting for Gauda to reply, Pierre answered his own question. This means that the frequent appearance of earth vein creatures outside the city is not caused by simple gathering, but the emergence of earth vein creatures from new sources. And leyline creatures only come from leylines. El finally said something that seemed incomprehensible, but Gauda suddenly understood and his face changed drastically. You mean the anomaly outside the city is caused by the formation of new ground veins? He clearly remembered the following sentence in the Bremen geography he had bought. After the planes intersected, earth veins were born frequently, and their number increased day by day. Earth vein creatures emerged, but no new earth veins were born in the Bremen area for 200 years. Jellos 12 once praised Bremen as a blessed place. A blessed land, will it no longer be blessed? I'm not sure, but I think it's very likely. At least now there is a high probability that a new species of earth vein creature has invaded Hogan City. Doesn't this coincide with my guess? The formation of new ley lines has brought with it new ley line creatures. Gauda murmured, understanding what Pierre meant.